Okay, good evening. I would like to call the meeting of the Nauset Regional School Committee to order. It is Thursday, December 18th at 6:05. We are in the Nauset room at the middle school. As required by the open meeting law, we are informing you that the district will be videotaping this public meeting. In addition, if anyone else intends to either video or audio tape this meeting, they are required to inform the chair. Okay, and with that, we have a quorum. Catherine is on the screen behind me, and Carrie is still on the high seas, I guess. There. So, there are no agenda changes, as we believe. So then we will move on to public comment. Members of the public may address the committee on matters not on the meeting's agenda, for a maximum of 3 to 5 minutes. Are there any people here for public comment? Do you see Jen?
No.
If you're out there, there's a public comment. No? Okay. We will move on. Okay. Consent agenda. We don't have any consent agenda today, right? No grants, no gifts, no minutes. Move right on to priority business. And we'll start with A, policy updates. Vicki, I think that's you.
Thank you very much. Sorry, that was really great.
Gotcha.
Did. So I have two policies I wanted to bring in front of the school committee tonight. The first one is the middle school pathway inclusion policy. And then the other one is the graduation requirement policy. And I was gonna go through each one and maybe pause and see if there's any questions. So the middle school pathway policy is a new policy that the Department of Education is requiring each district to create and upload to their state specific website. And what I'm asking is for this committee to do a first read and provide feedback that I can bring back to the policy subcommittee to make updates. And then we'll bring back that policy for a second read in January. In your packet, I've included the policy itself, and this was reviewed by our policy subcommittee, and the wording has been approved. Right now, because these are so new, there's really no model policies provided by Mass. So this was kind of created based on the guidelines that DESE gave us in terms of what content they wanted the program details to have, and we kind of based it off of this. So basically what the high schools, what the districts have to ensure, since is the policy is called CTE, which is Career Technical Education, and we have to make sure that we're providing our middle school students ample opportunities to explore high school choices in their area. And this came about
to explore
their high school choices that they have available in the area, so that we're making sure that our students are really aware of what their choices are. And this came about this summer when the technical high schools went to a lottery system. So they want to make sure that everybody has equal opportunity to be able to understand like what their options are. So the state asked each district to kind of lay out a plan, which you can see in the next part, which is the program detail. And we had to ensure that information is shared about any of our area high schools that fall in our region. So our career, our technical school, the K-5 Regional Technical School, it's really around public schools, so we wouldn't be sharing it kind of on private schools. And that's really the main one that is available for us, as well as our own high school, like what their options are. So in the plan, you can kind of see that we have laid out how the information is being shared, that we will be providing, which we already do, students an opportunity to visit the technical, high school and also opportunities to visit our, Nauset Regional High School, during their 7th and 8th years, that, their attendance, will not impact attendance for them when they visit the schools, that we will give an opportunity for the technical school to come to the middle school to also share information with their students. That that we will keep records of the students that are attending, that have attended these opportunities as the state requires. And that transportation is provided by the hosting school or by families if they're gonna go see the technical school. So basically as you can see, the policy kind of captures a shortened version of what the program over details kind of.
Just a quick question.
Mhm.
So, I'm sorry, you just said technical schools are gonna provide the transportation or parents will provide transportation. This is just a visit to see what's available.
Yes.
In the past, we've had a visiting day, at the technical schools, and I'm not sure exactly how transportation worked, but everybody who wanted to go could go.
Yeah, so our practice has been that the technical, the Cape Cod Regional Technical High School has always provided the transportation. This isn't a major change to what we kind of do. It's just the state wants us now to more formally capture it in a policy and then to add it to our handbook, the program details. So it's really kind of encompassing what we already do, just making sure that we meet the specific kind of criteria that they're requiring. I mean, we have never like the record maintenance piece of it of like who's going, who went, which we do for attendance purposes anyways, but it's not something that the school really, I think, like kept as like, a document that was needed to be kept. So it's more official now. But
Can I
it's,
just ask, sorry,
Yeah.
I think the key with this has not been necessarily the case uniformly
Right.
across the state.
Yeah.
And districts have approached it very differently.
I mean, all those radio advertisements are not pushing the technical school?
Yeah, so thank you, for clarifying that, yeah, so like I said, I think when you read through it, it's not anything that will be really that different from what we already have in place. One of the things that is included in the plan is under the middle school career exploration and awareness is one of the things that the state has implemented is what's called a MyCap, which is my career path planning. So that's something that we're actually going to be looking at as a district to have a more systematic approach of some pathway opportunities for our students starting at the middle school, continuing to high school. Which I think is actually was kind of our natural next step anyways. So I've included that in our plan because I know that this is something that we'll be looking at starting. So I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the way that anything that's in the policy or anything that's in the program details, any suggestions for feedback or.
Quickly, Ryan, just a couple of thoughts. I mean, first off, I think it's critical that we give students the opportunity to thrive wherever they can, wherever, what meets their needs. And so, that technical schools are really worthwhile. I do think it might, well, I think it's probably a good idea to let kids explore what career path they might want. I think it's as a father of two recent high school graduates, I think it's, I think some kids come out of high school know exactly what they want to do, and I think many kids, I think the majority of kids come out of high school not necessarily knowing exactly what they want to do. I don't know that that's a wrong thing. I think probably what we could do to add to their knowledge base is to give them exposure to different opportunities. What's this career about? What's that career about? And that would be the most helpful, trying to lock them down into a career path. I think, I think John, just too early, you know.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying, and that's not how, I think like what it gives students is an opportunity for student interest. You know, and to see like if a student has a particular interest and they wanna achieve, due to just certain coursework or area at the high school, that we're providing exposure for students to be able to, you know, if they're really interested in like computer science, for example, you know, so they have coursework available for them that they can start exploring that interest to see if that's something that. So it's not something like once you enter, like you can't shift, or it's just more like giving more choices and opportunities for students in a more planned and systematic.
Thank you. Sure.
Okay, anything else? I just have one clarification. When we say this is going into the student handbook, is this new student handbook? It's called something else that has all the policies in that we did at the last, right at the end of the year, last year?
It would be the district handbook.
District, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
whatever, is that what it's called, district handbook? I don't remember the name.
Thank
Judy's, Ken, not a question.
Thank you. Catherine?
Yell.
Yes, I don't know if you said this and I missed it and I apologize if I did, but is this something that has been looked over by, or does it need to even be looked over by any lawyers or anything?
In the policy,
Yes.
I don't think it needs to be, we can.
Yeah, our policies do not.
Yeah, no, we've not vetted this through council. We felt like there was a good enough starting point from the Department of Education to work with another sample policies that we gathered from some other districts, that we felt that this didn't need to necessarily be run by them. It's in line with really what an obligation is requiring, you know, from the state, and we're just trying to comply. You know, do so in the spirit of what is being asked here. We certainly can share it, but we just, for this particular topic, we didn't feel like it was necessary. If you have concerns, we certainly can explore that.
I was just wondering if it was something that we had to. I think it's a great idea, especially as we don't even know what jobs are going to be out there for our students, and so I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, the state provided very explicit guidelines of what they wanted included, you know, and that's categories are included the way they are.
And just, you say that mass did not come up with the I mean, just usually when something comes out from the state, they're right on with writing something up. Someone just surprised get it from in that policy book. It's like one parcel there.
I think that this is a prime example of what we are seeing increasingly happen, and that is an accelerated pace of the Department of Ed trying to push through certain things where that time frame, and I know exactly what you're talking about, that MASC would get ahead of it and push it out. There's been, I would say, over the last probably couple of years, and in fact, this has been a point of conversation amongst the School Superintendents Association, where there's so much happening so quickly and pushing it through in timelines that are far too accelerated. And I would argue this is another example. So MASC just hasn't had a chance to kind of get their footing on this. So.
And one thought on something like that is if you really want something implemented right, you take your time, do it right, and come up with something right. So it's, you know, check the box, but you haven't necessarily done the job. Yes.
And like for this process, because it was so new for so many districts, I've met with Monomoy. I told a lot of different ones that other districts have completed. I've met with our own administrators at the middle school and the high school, our adjustment counselor at the high school, Kate Cameron, just to kind of make sure that like the practices were really aligned with what they're doing and it represented.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm sure you did a thorough job. It wasn't my.
Oh, no, I just feel like I should share that. No, I wasn't responding to that, I'm just saying like overall, like, And I think like we're all put in that position, like all the districts were doing, just because there wasn't like a model policy, so we kind of just went by the guidelines that the state gave us, or the Department of Education, and just kind of work with each other, you know.
Thank you, sure.
Okay, any questions? Okay, then before we go on to the next one, let's discuss with this one. So what you want us to do is to approve the policy for the first reading, right?
Yes, please.
And approve the student handbook program information. Okay.
That's.
Okay, so, let's start with the policy. Do I have a motion to approve the middle school pathway exploration policy for the first read?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all right, we're gonna have to go by roll call. Okay, Catherine, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Katie?
Yeah.
Rick?
Yes.
I vote yes. Maura?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Oh. If he doesn't. Okay, so it's passed. All right, then we'll move to the program details, the draft middle school pathway program details that will be included in the district handbook.
And that's what we just got, right? The other items that you gave us in our back.
Yeah, so that one's titled
Two pages.
program details.
Gotcha.
Are there any questions on this? Okay, so, is there a motion to approve the middle school pathway program details to include in the district handbook? So moved. Is there a second? Moved and seconded, any more discussion? Okay, Catherine, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sarah?
Yes.
Elizabeth?
Yes.
Tom?
Yes.
Maura?
Yes.
I vote yes. Rick? Kate?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Unanimous. Done.
Thank you.
I've got one. Next. We're not finished with it yet.
No, I appreciate your time. So, so the next thing that the state has, brought in front of us, was, based on the elimination of the MCAS as a graduation requirement. And last year, a document was, developed called competency determinations for graduation. And that has, a document has already been, in front of the school committee last spring and approved, and it's in our family handbook, the district family handbook. And what they are requiring, in addition to that competency determination document, is the districts to also provide a policy that just outlines our graduation requirements. And we have policy IKF listed as graduation requirements, which delineates what the requirements are. This one has a pretty sharp deadline. I have to upload it to the website by December 30th of this month. So I'm asking the school committee to approve the policy, so we're able to meet and be in compliance with the state. One of the things I do wanna just highlight, which I mentioned in my memo, is the realization that there's definitely some more work that needs to be done around our graduation requirements. And I think that that's something that is would be in our best interest to revisit through a formal committee that we can put together to kind of just take a look at our process and our expectations for students and in terms of what we are offering. So even though this policy is being brought forth to you right now, just so we meet that deadline, I do think that as a district, it would be in our best interest just to do a little bit more work around it. This also comes at the heels of Governor Healy a couple of weeks ago has also released a draft I don't know what you call it, died, and that the state is actually also relooking at graduation requirements as on the whole. So I attended the presentation a couple weeks ago that was given by the commissioner. And what they're doing is they're putting together a task force to enhance what graduation requirements are across the state. It looks like they're looking to unify those expectations. So this is something that I feel like as a district, we're gonna get some more information from the state, and it's something we're gonna need to revisit again. They said that the draft proposal with, the revamped expectations should be available around mid-June for districts to be able to see. I think in anticipation of that, our plan is to put the committee together just so we can kind of start looking at pathways and some other things probably in the spring. So when the new requirements do come, we already have a standing committee ready to respond and make adjustments, as needed. But they still stress on the call that the districts have to upload the new policies by December 30th. So, I know it's a little bit of a, you feel a little bit backwards, you know, how we're doing things, but it's kind of where we are in terms of just needing to do a compliance. So the graduation requirements, there hasn't been, a tremendous shift. You know, it does meet, what the state is requiring us for us to list as of last spring. So, and like I said, it's not that different from what we already have in place, already in our policy manual. So I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee might have.
I think we here. Does anybody have any questions for Vicky?
Have a quick one.
Yeah.
How different is this policy than the actual competency determination document? Is it the same, like
It's the
verbatim, or?
It's, yeah, so like that portion that lists like the courses is exactly the. It's just, Anybody else?
I think we sort of briefly talked about this. My concern is more on like, how are we ensuring that some of our students who might not be as academically strong as what we are projecting are handled for graduation? And how can we as a school make sure that we are not penalizing students who are not as academically strong as other students by holding them to the standards that are much higher than the state? So I know we have like the Beacon program, for example, and it's a program that you're launching, is that what you're calling it, Beacon program? That would be a kind of example of a program that I would see as students. And even if there's 20 students in that program, we're asking them to perform academically sort of much higher than what would be sort of a program that they could do. And I know I've mentioned this before about different pathway programs and internships and things like that. And are we creating something for those students that can also be successful? Or are we creating a standard that's going to make it difficult for them to graduate?
Yeah, so I think like when we look at English language arts, and I would invite Principal Clark, of course, please chime in. There's under that category, there's a lot of courses that students have that would meet the ELA in terms of our program of studies that's available. So I think that that students can take 4 years of English language arts, but it doesn't all have to be like you could pursue through other interests, you know what I mean, that was covered the ELA standard. I think like again, to your point, I think it's something that we should take a look at again, and I think the pathways,
So like if I count, I know we have 7 blocks. So if you have a student who in their freshman year is in 5 of these classes, and then they're in an academic support program, and I love to call these students my invisible disability kids who need to move. You have one additional class, but then they're able to do extracurricular sort of outside of the requirements that we're putting them in. And we're putting them in those requirements for the first 2 years of high school, which is freshman and sophomore year, which is already a difficult time for them. And then as they get older, they might do a lot better if they did sort of an internship, or a pathway program, or a certificate program. But because of these restrictions, we're really not giving them the flexibility as they get into older grades. So for me, I totally think that we have a large student body that can handle these. But I also want to make sure that we're not creating sort of restrictions that are going to be already difficult for our students who are in that program or in a program similar to that. And because they're not able to get into the tech because of the restrictions that the tech has, or for whatever reason, or like, I want to make sure that all of our students are being looked at and not just our top tiers, I guess is how I look at it. And I don't want to have a policy for graduation that's much stricter than the state if it means that we're cutting students out that would struggle to get through, if we can come up with something different for them.
The issue is we can't come up with it before December 30th.
I totally get it,
Yeah.
but when we come back and
Yeah.
review it, I wanna make sure
Yeah.
that we're looking at.
Just
spectrum.
to add on to that, for people that weren't on the school committee and or here in 2001. In November 2001, this was this one, 20.
I was like, oh, yeah.
I was a junior.
In November 2021, this school committee passed a motion unanimously requesting the administration to review the graduation requirements and review them and revamp them, but review them. That motion is still on the table. In 4 years, there has been, we still have the same graduation requirements we had 4 years ago. Pat started last year, with working on the graduation requirements because the high school council, that was discussed, it was discussed with students. It was, I remember them to be very good discussions. However, there has been no action taken. It's time that we acted on that, that we made the motion for a reason. It wasn't to create busy work. So for one, I would say that I understand this has to be done by December 30th. So I call it, if we pass this, if I voted for it, it would be to ensure compliance with the state. I do not want it to be seen that we approve these graduation requirements as graduation requirements, but we approve it to comply with the state, because this isn't what we requested. There's been no discussion over it. And I think your plan for your committee, needs to take place.
And I wanted to make sure, like, that's why I captured it in the memo, like, more officially, like, that we're planning to do a committee with a wide representation of stakeholders. And, this week, I started pursuing some grant opportunities for, organizations that support the development of this pathway programs, you know, so students have the choice. So, I just wanted to make sure that you felt heard, you know what I mean? And, like, we're kind of in this position now that we need to have this compliance, but this is not the last time we're gonna discuss it. We'll move forward.
And we were in this position last year when we had to do this competency determination, and graduation requirements had to be put into it with, again, no discussion on with these graduation requirements we really wanted. So I just want to make sure that we go on record with that as that, and then I mean, I understand that the state is gonna come up with, I hope this isn't something that they're gonna do so fast that they wanna replace the MCAS, that they don't think this through, but I think it behooves us to, as a school community, to think what we want as graduation requirements. And then see how it fits in to whatever the state wants. So I would encourage you to start that. Yeah, Chris?
I think, I mean, Elizabeth makes a good point, though, I think, you know, since my time on school committee, my thought, or on Nauset education, has always been one that is inclusive, meaning that, you know, one of the nice things about all the programs we offered was that every kid could find their niche in that school and succeed. And so while I understand the importance of academic credentials and so forth, I think what's most important is the community and you know, providing a safe culture, nurturing location for these kids to grow in. And we might gotta make sure we keep that balance with that. And I understand what you're saying, but I think we need to make sure kids feel at home in school, at home, that they're comfortable in school and that it's not merely a rat race to who can take what you call it, inside and gender, outside, but
That's
we offered 55 of them, I believe. Eight courses, right. This gets a little, it's almost,
19.
Your daughters aren't in school anymore, so you forget all that.
Rain did. But I mean, it does, you know, there's nothing wrong with academic rigor, but at the same time, you gotta make sure that you provide an environment where all kids can succeed and grow and look report.
Yeah, and as a new person to the Nauset Public Schools, I do have to say that even the choices, we're gonna talk about the program of studies later. It's really incredible what you've built so far, you know what I mean, even like the jewelry making workshops, and I have never seen that in all the districts we worked in, and I've been up and down state a little bit, you know, and and I think that, Principal Clark and I have talked to, like, there's always room for us to be able to reflect and grow and make improvements, and I think the feedback is really heard, and I think we're in alignment in terms of like what we wanna see for our kids, you know? So I think like, again, if putting this aside, this is a great opportunity for us because of all the shifts that are happening, for us to kind of just truly look, like, how are we offering pathways? What does an K-12 experience look like for our kids, you know, in 2026, you know? And I think that, like I said, like, we're all very much aligned with, I think the best way for us to do that is to really make sure that we have all the stakeholders present, that we can really take a look at the programs we're offering now, have student voices involved in that as well. And we'd love to hear feedback from our parents and students too, you know, just like what they're kind of hoping to see. So I think like our next step, and like I said, my plan is that also we're doing the strategic plan, which kind of ties in. I just feel like everything is kind of aligning for us to be able to kind of do those shifts that we might want to see, you know, so. Springtime is kind of my kind of vision to get the committee going, even though it's gonna be before what the state releases, but I think will give us a wonderful opportunity, like, to your point, Judy, to kind of really establish, like, when we are thinking about an offset education, you know what I mean, like, what is that for us, you know, and we'll have, we'll be very we'll have a strategic plan, not complete by that time, but we'll have some really good components of it, so we can kind of lean on that to be able to help this community establish and, you know, and kind of revisit all of these. So, like, even though I know I'm asking you to vote on this now, just because compliance, but when again, we assure you that, you know, we'll definitely take that.
Okay, anybody else have any questions? Tom?
Just a point of clarification, what does IKF stand for?
It's the policy, it's the policy,
It's the
you
number.
know, the letters.
Oh,
the
okay,
policy,
okay.
In our policy handbook.
That was like a test.
I do not.
International. Foundation.
Up my game.
Actual knowledge formula. There you go. Okay, all right, so then do I have a motion to approve policy IKF, not in the first read, but in the final read, in order to meet, DESI's December 30th compliance? So moved. Sorry. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, Catherine, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Katie,
Yes.
Rick?
Yes.
I vote yes, Maura.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Zero yes. Okay, you got it. So, the state does have a city that. Oh, she's not finished yet.
Oh, so the next part, I think gonna definitely invite again the principal Park and the superintendent to talk about our, the transition plans for, from the fifth to sixth grade as well as, tonight.
Yeah, so in your packet, there's a memo, thank you to Vicki and Pat and Peter for putting this together. I think broadly speaking, what's clear to me, and I think it will necessarily become, essential for us moving forward as a school district, is to make sure that we can do everything we can to inform, our potential families, Nauset residents, for towns and certainly beyond, about the amazing programming that is happening here in both the middle school and high school. I think what's fair to say, and this is not just true here, but anywhere, is that families have an awful lot of choices, as it relates to their education, whether it's private school, charter school, homeschool, and a whole host of other alternative programs. And
Catholic school?
so I think what it far has to transcend what may have been some sort of antiquated thinking. And this is true in many pockets, is, you know, we have to really, I think, even as a public school setting, put our best foot forward and not make assumptions that just because it's here, people will come. And I think that, you know, this is just but one of many efforts that I really think we need to take hold of and be really thoughtful about, to try and message our families and provide opportunities. So this is just a first pass of providing an overview for our school committee here tonight around some of the activities that are planned, specifically around the transition from fifth to sixth grade, so incoming class to the middle school, and then similarly from eighth to ninth grade. And as you'll see in the memo, it's an outline of both students transition planning as well as family transition planning or parent information evening. And I think, but Pat can correct me if I'm wrong, I think this is a tad earlier, a little bit earlier, is it not, than perhaps in recent years?
Just a little, a few weeks earlier for sure.
And I think that as we go forward, we also know that at least the charter schools often have deadlines for applications that are getting earlier and earlier, tech schools as well too. And so that's just another sort of, we need to be responsive to that and aware of the fact that, well, we may have one time be holding, you know, parent nights in the spring. I think things are changing, and so to be responsive to that, we need to change our approaches as well too. So there's a lot of things, a lot of dates that are sprinkled throughout here. I think it's, you can see the specific communities that are addressed, obviously the 4 communities that make up Nauset. But also, and for both, you know, Vicki and I, we were in Pat, we also have important constituents in other communities nearby, Laturo and Provincetown. And then there's the whole, obviously, beyond that, school choice and that, those communities respectively. So Pat, I'm not sure if you wanted to bring attention to anything else specifically, or Vicki, but really just to, again, to help inform the school committee on what's to come. And then the messaging that was to invite folks to participate in this.
So, and just a plug for January 15th to start. So we have tried different formats for a showcase night to bring 8th grade students and families onto campus in the evening and kind of show off what we have. Now, during construction over a couple of year period, that has taken some unusual forms that night. But I'm very excited, and I think the team that came together with the planning on this has a real full campus, full view of everything we offer, evening plan for January 15th. So parents of 8th grade students here at the middle school received their first call from me 4 days ago that said, please put January 15th on the calendar for our Discover Nauset night, which is what it is called. Students will be led, 8th grade students and students considering school choice from around the Cape will be led by our student leaders and some of our faculty through all of the buildings, including the spaces that will just have opened 10 days before. So it's a very exciting opportunity to show off a state-of-the-art campus like nothing else that we're familiar with. And look at all the programs that are available, from looking at engineering, looking at the arts, looking at our athletic programs. Our Hope Squad is going to have a location for their mini lesson, as is our student council. So kind of the life of the school that Chris was speaking to, beyond the academics and beyond the classroom. So we're really excited about that. So if everyone could put, January 15th on their calendar, if you're an eighth grader, and families of eighth graders, or considering transferring from around the Cape. So from January 15th, starting just a few weeks, all the way down to 2 days after graduation, which is Step Up Day. So we will bring students again to the high school, and we will have them run through their schedule for about a half day mini class for each of their 7 courses, where they will have a extracurricular fair. They'll get the emails and get the contact information of the presidents of our various organizations, and it's an awesome day. In between, we have scheduling, we have informational meetings of various kinds. So we really have 4 major chunks that you see that are here, along with the invites for student athletes who are in 8th grade to come up and have an evening alongside our athletes at many of our events, student artists from here to come up. And then Mr. Cohen, Dr. Cohen started with us a couple of years back, having our upperclassmen come to our cafeteria here and do kind of roundtable discussions with the middle school students. And when the big kids go down to see the little kids, they're rock stars. I love going to see it. It could be, it's awesome to see. So I think that we have a good plan put in place from now right through post-graduation. And I agree with Glenn, from a marketing, branding, communication, repeat message of the quality of what we're doing. Being assertive about that is now even easier, that we're going to be open with phase 2 on January 5th. So I'm excited for the whole beefed up game plan.
I have a question about incoming students. Do they still sort of promote us internationally? Because I remember there was a time when, and this was like pre-COVID and Conrad did this, but we had a lot of international students coming and spending the year with us.
Yes.
And I don't know if COVID sort of put a stop to that for a while, for bringing that back.
No, we restarted. This is the first year where we have 3 students who are here internationally, 2 students from Germany and 1 from Italy. And they are here either for a full year or half year.
Yeah.
Jenna Margata, who is our special education department head, is the coordinator for that program. We've reestablished our relationship with Educatius, which is the clearinghouse that's coordinating this for us. And we hope to have more tours so the Educatius people can see what we're all about and promote Nauset. It's been a very good experience.
Do we do the same opportunities for any of our students that want to do that abroad? I know we used to have the Rotary program.
We
That
don't
was a long time ago.
I think it's still
But
exists.
do we do that as well? Do we have a student who's very like, we want to go and do something like that?
Individually, we don't, Educatius is a one-way process. The largely European, but could be South Americans, students come from, global students come to us for, and we're just getting this going again. It's a lot of legwork to get that going in terms of restrictions on travel and the like. So we're excited that we got that reignited this year.
How do school, you talk about which we get there 4 times, but then how do we get the information out to the rest of the Cape, whatever, the other potential students that they want to choose to come? For this night, at least to start, but even just other information, what programming is available to high school? How do we advocate this?
Well, we contact the schools that we have database access to legally. So any of a feeder school, so let's say Cape Cod Lighthouse Charter, we go and visit them. They have open house nights. Those students are invited to come see us and have tours of the school. So we have legal access to certain information of students who are from our communities. Marketing for school choice beyond our communities is alerting people that we know in those communities, that we've updated a website, that we have information, but we don't have the right to receive say the Dennis Yarmouth or Harwich student database to directly give them information the way that we do with our own students. So we have to up our game in terms of a new and improved website, yes. When we have sporting events, when Dennis Yarmouth came to us 2 nights ago, and we had materials about the Nauset Public Schools that happened to be handy, someone can pick them up and take a look at them. So we're being strategic in how that happens. And if we could figure out a way to get our hands on the databases of the students all around Cape Cod, I would gladly communicate directly with all of those families.
In Province, town, those students, eighth grade, they also, just like our the middle school students, get a chance to meet, right?
So yes, Provincetown students come to our school, we have a Zoom night with them, and then our counselors and I go to Provincetown and we do their scheduling with them in their library. It's a very small group, so we're able to do it in a real personal manner. So Cape Cod Lighthouse charter students, Provincetown students, or middle school students, all get a real personalized process and welcome to the school.
I'd like to point out that they're not in this plan. As it's presented to us, there's no mention of either Provincetown or Truro,
Truro is, January 9th, Truro Central School, fifth graders invited.
the fifth graders, but I'm talking of the middle school. Nor of the Lighthouse Charter School.
All of those are happening, the dates might not be.
I'd like to see it in here. Okay. Also, are they invited to the January 15th showcase night?
Everybody has been.
It's not on the flyer. The flyer is limited. Unless it's been changed, it was limited to middle school students, Nauset middle school, Nauset regional middle school students and school choice.
The Cape Cod Lighthouse Charter School has received the flyer and received feedback to Katie that it's been distributed.
Well, that's great, but they're not, that, when I see it as a community person or as a school committee person, I see there are two groups on that flyer. I only see Nauset Regional Middle School and school choice students.
Oh, I'll have to take a look to see if it was
Yeah, that's-
customized, if the language was
So,
customized for various schools.
and that's the one that's up on the website, so you might wanna put
I
all of
don't-
them on the
If I'm
website.
not mistaken, I think the text addresses the specific school it was sent to, you just happen to see one of the samples, but I will double
But
check.
that's what's on the website,
I will double check that, thank you.
yeah. Yeah. I do look at the website.
You and two other people. No, sorry.
No,
I'm just kidding, I'm just-
no, free at least.
I will say one final piece that's not addressed here, but probably by the time we meet again in January, thanks to Pat and his team, who I mentioned this previously, we partnered with a third party who to become a videographer. I guess would be the right term for him. He came in a number of weeks ago and shot a ton of footage of students and staff and video images of the school. We've had a chance to see a sneak peek of a very condensed, sort of intensive, high interest, high engagement video clip of about what will be 3, 4, 5 minutes or something, no more than that. That should be done and ready to go, but the next time we'll debut it, preview it, if you will here. But this should also serve as a great vehicle to try and, if we can find right channels to circulate that. That's something that through Facebook, those kind of things will be, I'm sure, of interest and accessible for folks who are interested in Nauset Public Schools. So stay tuned for that. Premiere, debut, whatever the right term is for that.
Okay, anything else? Just, more, I'm sorry.
Quick, thought, because we're talking about transition planning as a parent of a recent kiddo that transitioned from 8 to 9. I think there's an opportunity, and also as a school committee member on a recent school council meeting, we talked about this in depth. There's an opportunity, there's something missing between 8th and 9th grade with the counseling department. I found that it was hard to understand where that all, like how that all like unrolled. Like when they started to work with the kids, or even for a little while, who it was, so there's like a little bit of a gap that I found there. I think it straightens itself out as the year goes on, but it might be just like a document that says, this is how your child is gonna interact with the counseling department. They're gonna reach out to them in September, and then they're gonna work with them. Something like that, I think, was just like one piece, especially missing in the process for me, as a parent.
We talked about this back some
Yeah.
time ago, and we actually have a draft of a services students receive in grades 9, 10, 11, and 12. and that's in draft form, so we will have that ready to go based on the feedback from about 6 months ago, so we had this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
When they go to high school, are they assigned a grade counselor like they do in middle school, or the counselors get sort of an equal number of students from each grade?
Equal number, and the counselor, student stays with the counselor stays with the student for all.
So when you give them their schedule, maybe you could just add on their schedule who their assigned counselor is, so that when it goes home.
It is.
Yeah, it says in the assessment too.
Yeah.
On like academic page, it says your transcripts.
We're figuring out a way to include the photo, because some students like to look at the photo, so when you're moving about or they're at an event in the community, they can say, oh, I know that person. And when we do our scheduling, we will have the counselor assignment already set, so half to 3/4 of the way through this year, the student can get the image and get the name and contact information.
Just also, because we're talking about transition, and it was discussed last year at the high school council. Okay, we get the students in, then they come in, and as you say, and they're a little bit of loss. So it was, how do we help kids transition into that first year, not just knowing the counselor, but pulling their way around. It's a new school, it's new, whatever. A lot of the students on the high school council had some good ideas on that, and I think for both the middle school and the high school, it would be good. I know, there has some thought been given to it, but, you know, do they get, assigned a buddy? Does a senior come and help them, or an 8th grader help the 6th grader, so that a new kid comes in and has questions, there's somebody to ask. That kind of help in transitioning. Maybe not everybody's gonna come with their 10 best friends. And they might not be in the lunch hour with their 10 best friends, or lunch 35 minutes, whatever it is. So, I would just encourage, that kind of thinking to help, because I think the freshmen do get lost, and the 6th graders. This is a big thing to come to middle school to 6th grade.
I think shooting to your point, so this year we had 6th grade and the 9th grade. And 6th grade, I think is just tough because it's a tough time of your life, and so like everything's scary. But 9th grade, my son played sports, so it was very comfortable for him. But those that don't play sports, maybe even getting the clubs and stuff, and then maybe they start ahead before the school starts. But that helped him so much, just walking in the first day and like not even thinking about it. Like I remember pulling up and being like, oh my god, are you okay? Like you're nervous. Like, this is so not a big deal. Like maybe that was just like the 9th grade mentality, but like anything that can get started prior to school starting, I think just helps them so much.
Just, I mean, also that maybe making the first 2 weeks or the first month of school, something special. But I mean, you do something to try to make it more welcoming. Every day, do something every Thursday or whatever, so that part of it is that these kids need it. Their crew, they need to find a crew, and if they don't have that ability to communicate or whatever, then you're gonna lose them, or they're gonna if they find their crew, they're gonna be much more successful. So that beginning start in both middle school and high school are so critical. And you can take time and concentrate on those, that first 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever, month, just to make sure we get each of these kids, we get a contact and somebody that they're comfortable with. I think it's just it provide much more success on going and kind of things.
Okay. There's nothing we have to approve here, is there?
There's no.
Original.
Okay, this is great. I, as I had said to Vicki Glenn earlier, this is the first time I remember seeing it this clearly in writing. So it's really good to have.
We're seeing a lot more things in order.
Yes, yeah, great stuff. It's very good. Okay, so, then we're going to move to the first read of the high school program of studies.
Yeah, just before, if I may just jump in, as a reminder, this will be an actionable item, and I understand that this is a bit of an adjustment or change as well too, but I've shared my thoughts before with you, that it's not just my thoughts, but really it is governed by policy. Around, you know, at the very least, if you think about this, this is the beacon, the flagship of the school system, inclusive of the earlier topic that you were talking about, and that is graduation requirements, which are included in the program of studies. But even beyond that, you know, as that flagship school and all of the respective courses and offerings that obviously entail an awful lot of resources leading up to that graduation requirement, it's only appropriate for the school committee to approve. So this is intentionally here as a first read tonight, with the request that you are approving it in January for a second read. The timing is such that we have this scheduled for the second meeting in January. I don't remember the date off the top of my head, but and that's intentional as well, to allow Pat and his team to start the course selection process that, believe it or not, starts in early February. So there's a sequence to all of this. And thank you to Pat, who's done a great job of putting together the presentation that is going to be shown, I think, on the screen. Right, Dan, we have it. And the packet that is in your, or the document that's in your packet that gives you the depth of the program.
This is that.
Yes.
Presentation.
And I understand, well, you don't.
Great, so we'll start with the slides. There's an introductory program overview that summarizes a great deal of the information I think that's been requested. I love, first of all, just to say, I love the fact that we're doing this with this structure, because in the past, I feel like this has been either requested or presented kind of in pieces. And this is the first time I feel that we're doing this kind of with the right package. So everyone is familiar with the new campus is going to look like. So a couple of things. Next slide, please. You can see on the right-hand side of the screen, we spent about a year and a half with a tremendous volume of work to identify what the portrait of a graduate should entail. And we concluded with 6 competency areas that you can see from the top: communicator, problem solver, creative thinker, global citizen, self-directed learner, and collaborator. I am pleased to say, after meeting on the principal's call with the commissioner and the secretary of education yesterday, we are right in line with the future Massachusetts vision of a graduate. With their imagery looks different, but the language and their descriptions are quite similar. The other part is we liked this image because we believe this image, as I tell the freshmen, is each and every student who they are on graduation day. This is just the image of a human. That human is going to be filled up with certain skills, and those skills are going to be portable and durable, and we have those skills listed in the image. In terms of the program of studies, we have one area that I'm adding to, which is quite simple, and we have some areas that are being deleted, and I want to talk those through. Art history is listed in the program of studies kind of as a standard course. There isn't a title on it. However, in actuality, it's been advanced placement art history. When I spoke with the teacher and I spoke with the department head, we're trying to increase the number of opportunities that we have learners of various styles and various skills learning the same content and the same skills in the same room at the same time. So we're going with the idea that college prep art history would be offered, but it would be in the same classroom as advanced placement art history. And we think that it's important in terms of role model learners. Maybe some students get in thinking that they are a college prep level student and didn't plan on taking an AP exam. But as long as we register them in the fall by whatever that date is, maybe they change their mind and they up their game a bit. Okay, so that is being, that's an additional offering. Deleted, the International Baccalaureate program, by and large, never quite took off the way that people were hoping. The idea of establishing an IB program in a school that takes over 500 advanced placement exams. Anytime I go to a conference, anytime I speak to people about that, they just say, how do you have the room to try to put an IB program in when you have your upperclassmen largely all statistically speaking, all taking an AP exam or two. So it was I think it was a good try, but by and large, the IB program, it's time to sunset that. It was down to 3 courses, and those courses, while 2 of them remained quite popular, the fees and the pulling the school in multiple directions from AP and IB is no longer tenable. It's resource heavy, it's kind of dividing things from a structure.
Sorry, can we get, all great stuff, and I understand why it's gone. But I think we need to go back and understand why it was brought to us. And at least again, I'm not an educator, but my limited understanding is the reason why IB programs have taken off across the country in education environments in high schools is because of the quality of the education that they bring the student through at the end of it. And it is, the one thing I heard, there was an MIT, he would interview students before, prior to them, applying for school to see if they could feasibly, get in. He said, sitting in front of an IB student in high school, regular high school students, so both, high achievers. He said, you can tell right away they did not even from the high school. Sure. So, I mean, the point here is that I realized we weren't successful at it. And I think part of that is because of our AP culture, but, the net of this is that we know that there's a better methodology of education, and we've just proven ourselves unable to provide that. So that's a little disconcerting.
Yeah, no, or we're providing it organically without the IB label. So in terms of, if you look at a lot of the high-end learning that's happening around the school, if you were to look at some of the features of IB, much of which are listed in our profile of the graduate here, you, I think, would find that IB-like characteristics in the learning exist pretty extensively, even though we don't have the label. There's no room for the label to fit in the school. So
I got you, but you look around this, and one of the reasons Provincetown schools have thrived is because of their IB program, and you look at the top rated school on the Cape, and it is an IB school, and
I will agree to disagree about Provincetown thriving for IB.
I'm sorry, fighting, what are you saying?
I will agree to disagree.
That it's not thriving?
I think there's other reasons as to why that school is currently thriving.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to just denounce IB.
I think though,
You speak to somebody from P-Town, the school, the people we spoke, principals, superintendent, they are very proud of their IB program.
yes,
And there are buses, in the morning, like traveling to Truro today, there are buses carting kids from Wellsprings and from Truro to P-Town to take part in their program.
I think though, part of it though is it becomes a cost restriction, and that's what I'm hearing. Is that in order for us to maintain a program that has a decrease, sort of enrollment, it's becoming a cost burdensome to the district. And there already are options, which many, I think, students who really want the full immersion of IB are going to. And it is a cost that we cannot take on as a school committee to provide for such a limited number of students. That's what I'm hearing. I think we tried it. I think that's what I'm hearing.
It's also not a program that works best when you just started their junior year.
Right.
You need the
Commitment.
middle year programs and the elementary programs to really support it.
It began the middle school program, the thought process in this system began in the middle school. And it did not take root, and so it went from the middle school to the high school, or the 10th, I'm sorry, Pat, it's not on you, I know IB was there before you got there, and I hate to say it was probably dead before you got there also. And then, it just, if you're gonna start something new, you need to be into it, and there needs to be buy-in, and there was not buy-in. There was something that was just, being pushed, that they're really, whatever the families, the staff, there just wasn't the buy-in. And so.
the feasibility and capacity pre-assessment, if you will, within the district, never quite occurred. That's just kind of where that stands. So afterwards, people said, good concept, let's try to kind of move that forward. But the idea that, is there the space for all all of this furniture, right? And if it is, do we have some, have we done enough investigation to know that the culture is gonna be able to move it forward? So the folks who've served as the director, two folks who've served as the director of IB, both point to those having not occurred being. Plus, there just isn't the room, they're considering all of the, program studies that's more robust than anything you're gonna find with the student body population that we have, so.
I think I'm gonna have to somewhat disagree or just say that there's maybe some other aspects to look at also. And to Chris's point, because we remember we were on the school committee. I think it was one of the first things I did on the school committee was we got the IB program in. And I would argue that it possibly didn't work, not because there wasn't room for it, but because it wasn't implemented well. And since nobody, I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, but I think it's a good lesson learned for us. In anything, if we're gonna do something, let's make sure we have follow through and implement it. And stop to take measures along the way and don't be afraid of identifying if something isn't going well. We identify it and then we figure out how to fix it. So I think that one of the reasons the IB program failed, it failed out of, I don't think it was ever welcomed and ever really put into practice. And so I think we tried it. The implementation wasn't well, and I just say, let's use it as a lesson learned and implement it.
You're doing us a good service, and then you truly, for a couple of years now, it has not been bought, so, it's a shame, but, to say it has not been broken, joke, I mean, so it's best to not present that, because we didn't,
And that's why it's here.
it makes good sense.
In terms of other deleted offerings, we, due to the unavailability of the teacher, the architecture courses, three sections of architecture courses were canceled and a cartoon section. And in terms of the population of the student body, as you know, it is not once what it was. So we cannot run everything that's in the program of studies and actually have students to be in those seats. And the other is our access program, which was our night school dropout prevention program, was down to 5 students in the last year. We ran it, the expense of that did not meet, nearly past muster. And we figured out ways to service those students who started their junior year during the school day in their senior year. And then in the meantime, started in a daytime dropout prevention program called the Beacon program. We have 12 students intensely involved in Beacon and another 6 who come in and out for certain aspects of the program. So we have a dropout prevention program. The idea being we are focusing more on grades 9 and 10 with Beacon, because trying to catch a student as they're stumbling towards dropping out in the junior and senior year, statistically speaking, looks like it does not work. Preventing students from failing English and math in 9th and 10th grade is what keeps students in high school. And if you pass English and math in 9th grade and 10th grade, you graduate from high school on time. So we're looking at the kind of the early measures.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question. So I think you mentioned it for some of those deleted offerings, but for architecture and cartooning, were they pretty popular courses? Or
There were 3 sections of architecture, and there was kind of half a section of cartooning. We ran it because we had the teacher available.
Okay,
Yeah.
because even like, an option could be like an architecture club or something, so that those kids are just something to stay there. I don't know if that's happening, but.
It is, in terms of our facility, director Bob Caperso has done the engineering club, and we know that that has become popular. The solar house that was in the back of the property was done by that group, so I think some of the students, there's a crossover from one to the other. Okay?
I have a question about your experience learning opportunities and your alternative learning opportunities.
Please.
So when I'm reading this, when I look at the work experience program, my understanding is when you did the access program, they used to have to work during the day, correct?
And yes,
So, and then with the access program being discontinued, you're just rebranding it as the Beacon program?
no,
Because it looks like that based on the descriptions.
Can we go in order?
Well, you just talked about discontinuing it. I'm just curious.
no, so.
Programs, I'm not saying.
So it's number 4.
I'm looking at these slides. I'm looking at these slides.
Oh, those slides.
Yes.
Okay.
They're in that.
They're in.
They're beyond
Yes,
this slide.
yes, keep going.
And so I'm working on stuff.
You're way ahead of me.
So in terms of unique offerings,
Still back at the other place.
I think it was said earlier tonight, when people look at our people look at our program of studies and they're floored at the variety of what can be offered. I know a previous employee of the district said that she came from a high school of 1,500 students, and the program of studies wasn't as robust. First things first, we should thank our faculty. They are creative in putting class sections together. We're different levels of learner in the room at the same time. It allows for some role modeling. It allows for that big brother, big sister kind of spirit that someone was talking about. Where you have a student in a particular course, let's just say that it's robotics, a freshman who's just starting off, maybe in the room with a senior who's doing their internship with the teacher at the same time, and that student feels the sense of clubhouse and kind of learning together. Just a few that are particularly interesting. Our partnership with UMass Boston, in terms of oceanography with Luke Simpson is fantastic. We have an art, metal, and jewelry lab, which someone mentioned, which we believe is one of 2 in the country that is something of this nature. Our woodworking students are super advanced, and if you see some of the furniture that's being installed around the campus, the number of parents who are about to get something for Christmas that's been made on our project, it is absolutely phenomenal. Much of which the woodworking and the art metal, I think people know, is sold in galleries in the region. And the jewelry is being sold as the fundraiser for Wildcare, which continues to be our partner program outside. So the jewelry is being made, that is which is the symbol of the animal that the Wildcare is saying needs the supports. And it's fantastic. Biotechnology, forensics, AP art history, which does not really happen anywhere. It's fantastic. We're reinvigorating what we're calling our confidence course, which is the outdoor ropes course. It's been on hold because it's been within a construction zone for a while. But Tony Manini has done some pruning, and we're taking care of the grounds around that. And as construction containers go away, that's going to be recharged. Our recent hire in the wellness, health wellness phys ed area is certified to teach that during the school day. Art relaxation techniques is fabulous class. I said, can you tell me what are we doing here? Absolutely. I think students find themselves there as much as any class we have. And we're also hosting the VEX robotics tournament for the Cape and Islands. It started last week. So you see students over on the right who are using their robots to move a sponge hockey puck with their robot into a goal that's in the side of the arena. So I think people know, I think it's one of the reasons that we do have such a large number of school choice. Our program of studies is fantastic. Alternative programming, in terms of, we have a few things that are happening. I think this will speak to your question. We have a senior experience program. So whether a student is doing an independent project or a student has a work experience off campus, they go through now, I think, a pretty clear set of expectations. And at the end of the year, you can see some of their presentations in the form of a demonstration where students who say maybe an EMT in training or a nurse in training that you see here have the experts from the field who come into the school. We have our teachers, they may have their parents. We have a breakfast for everyone, and then they're on their toes, much like a job fair format, to talk about what they learned. This year, we are upping our game in terms of having them talk about the portrait of graduate competencies and saying, I'm becoming an EMT and I have been able to collaborate with these folks and I've been able to problem solve with these folks. So the format of it is more aligned with our document. School Within a School is a smaller program. It is not a complete school. It's a humanities program that has existed for some time. It used to have all academic areas in it. Those academic areas have shrunk to be largely the humanities. But we have a couple of people who continue to be passionate about it. And when you look at it, you say, this is project-based, it's interdisciplinary between English and history, and the teachers have some common planning time. So the projects are robust. In the slides, I think you may see a photo of them in Newport last week. And as they studied kind of the Gilded Age and the robber baron era, they went to Newport. Different than School Within a School and different than our night school program, the Beacon program is the alternative ed program that's been launched now in year 2. All 4 core academic subjects are embedded in the Beacon program for small classes that we're reteaching tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 can all happen in the regular classroom. And by and large, that is paying dividends. We continue to work with students on some of the remedial skills that they may need in that program. We do an analysis of their reading level, their reading comprehension level. So English class is not English only in the traditional sense of high school. We move back right in their reading skills in the regular classroom. We do have an online learning program. So by and large, students who have a special interest, student might be taking EMT and firefighter vocabulary course, right? And they can take that course along with their 6 traditional courses. This is continuing along for us. It's been quite a success, not at the cost of trying to drive down the elective numbers, but as an addition for a course that we don't offer. Then we also offer dual enrollment. Yesterday, the secretary was talking about the state promoting early college going, and that's kind of one of the feathers in the cap of having a partnership with one of your community schools or 4-year schools. So seniors can go to Cape Cod Community College. Because of the scheduling, by and large, they buy in and do 3 courses for the fall and 3 courses for the spring. But they are still our student. They still participate in all of our activities, extracurriculars. They still participate in senior week and all the like. They graduate with us, and they are enrolled at Nauset Regional High School while they're involved.
So I have a question about that. In your packet, it says that they carry the cost. Do
They
you know when that transition, because when I graduated from Nauset, we used to carry the cost. I was a dual enrollment student.
Yes.
I'm just curious as to why, because I know some schools aren't going to still cover that cost. I'm just curious as to why we stopped covering the cost for our students.
I don't know when that occurred, but I do know from a presentation from Julian Sear that he was working to determine how funds could come to the schools so schools could cover all or part of the cost. That was about 2 years back, and we haven't heard.
So I know the weird thing is that if you go, once you graduate high school, it's free, but if you go as a high school student, you have to pay.
It's weird. But I don't, so, you know, that I've never seen in a budget in all my years here of us ever paying.
Well, I graduated in '02, Chris, so I think it was pre your time.
Well, the other part is, just to be clear, you may not have seen it in the budget because these oftentimes were county-based grants, as I understand it. And I don't know how that was handled in your budget. So you may have been receiving grant monies to have students go to dual enrollment. I believe that's how it occurred. So you might not have been looking at it as a line item in kind of the traditional fashion.
Because I know there are still a number of schools on the Cape that actually will still pay for their students to go. So I'm just curious about how that we could cover that, if it's a grant or if it's something.
I feel like I heard 2, I just wasn't able to find any like direct people related, but that some of it maybe years ago was covered by some of the grants.
Right, so I'm curious of how other schools are doing it currently
Mhm.
and how, like, we would, if we were to look at that, would we be able to do the same?
Well, Bourne's the one I'm familiar with
I'm very
in
familiar
the,
with
in
Bourne.
the area. I don't know that anybody else
And I
is.
know the crazy thing with Bourne is you can actually transfer in and they'll still pay for you to go.
So let me find out, but I believe Bourne, if I'm not mistaken, I believe Bourne is the sole school that pays for it. And I don't know if they have a benefactor behind the scenes or what that is, but maybe we could learn more.
Just curious, because I just think when they made the schools free, it's weird that they didn't include high school students that decided to enroll. So it's a big cost for students and families that want to do that.
Funny language and legislation
Yes.
usually is the answer to these
Yes.
things.
Do they pay the full cost of tuition?
Yes,
So it's, okay.
I have a senior from Nauset right now who's going, and it's costing her family about $7,000. So it's just curious to me because once she graduates and goes, then it's covered by the state, but I'm just curious.
No, it's good, I don't do
It's a
why.
choice they make.
Yeah, no, I understand, but I'm just curious as to how, like you said, Warren does it right there.
If anyone listening like to start with Bellman, and for our students going to Cape Cod Community College, I am all ears.
I think it works for some students. I mean, it worked for me, so I'm.
Okay, something else that folks had asked about.
Could I ask just before you go on this online learning? Uh, how many students do this and how much does this cost us? And how do we ensure that it's really worth the money? Does that sound
Yes, we vet and sign off on the curriculum, so it's through Edgenuity, so we know the quality of the brand. And annually, we have a ballpark figure of about $20,000 to be affiliated with Edgenuity, and they give us X number of seats. We generally fall just below the X number of seats, so we have no additional fees on top of that. It's managed by a paraeducator, and that paraeducator is more of a facilitator than direct instruction, because the direct instruction is online. So
So our cost and our budget is 20,000 a year.
ballpark.
Yeah.
And you keep mentioning fire science, so is that one of the biggest ones people are doing?
There's language around
Is the EMT?
vocabulary around EMT, like a pre-nursing. I have to go back and look. Those traditionally have been popular, and sometimes students who have families who are in that line of work. But there's a whole variety of courses in their course catalog that are kind of more specific and customized for that student who's developed interest.
And do we still work with the local fire departments to allow seniors to do internships with them?
Yes, we have students, I believe, in all of the fire departments right now. Okay, in terms of the establishment of an instructional leadership team, I think you folks have heard me before. When I came on board, we had a group of department heads. To varying degrees, they described their work as, they have a period free. They're kind of the go-between between the principal and their department members. They're kind of a messenger. And that format is dated and we've changed it. In terms of people who really are instructional leaders, ballpark for 7 to 12 people. We've done some pretty intense in-house training over the course of the years, including research for better teaching going back 40 years ago, where everyone went through an in-house series of workshops about what quality instructional leadership looks like. And each year we have had a building-based read, and 3 of them, I think you're probably familiar with much of this work. Carol Dweck Mindset, Start With Why by Simon Sinek. And then last year, I think, was the most rigorous work that we did around difficult conversations, asking department heads to make sure they are diplomatic, make sure they know how to listen, make sure they know how to communicate with people, and be ready to intervene when something isn't working well, and we see it when it's a small item. And by and large, I think the department heads would universally say that they gained good skills with this. A lot of scenarios and role plays and some of that, and this is very different work than what they're used to in department head meetings. This year, the instructional leadership team has taken on powerful task design, the real push to shift the classroom so students aren't really in an audience mode, but they're in more of a workshop doer mode, and trying to make that more universal throughout all classes. Has been well received so far. And we opened up this training after school with the department heads to other faculty members. And a total of 18, I believe, other faculty members came on board to earn PDPs for these after school sessions that myself and the 2 assistant principals are leading. Been very well received. So when you see ILT or high school instructional leadership team, this is what it is. They're department heads. They may run a particular program, but they're also increasingly becoming trained in good data use and supporting their teachers in eval and problem solving, interpersonal, teacher to student, kind of in a small manner before it kind of works its way up to the principal's office. So I'm really pleased with the progress over the 4 years.
So the instructional leadership team is a different name for department head?
Department heads and program leads, 2 assistant principals, Tony Nanini, athletic director, get pulled in when they need to. So it's not just the department head group
Okay, so it's department heads plus.
plus.
Gotcha, so there's still department heads, this is just a group.
Yeah. So just to speak to it a bit more, the powerful task design piece, not that we are professors and not that we have all the answers. We tried to create a culture of kind of learning along with, and by and large, I think it's been well received. Usually, teachers are coming with examples, involved in some kind of dialogue, and trying to come to some conclusions about best practices in the classroom, using the book as guide.
I just want to say that I had the pleasure to join some of the meetings, and it is such an enriching experience. I think the level of discussion that is occurring around removing barriers for students, how to make sure everybody has access, and really kind of rethinking the way we approach high school pedagogy has been really impressive. I think that you saw a little bit short, and Caroline, I think like the amount of planning and time that went into it, it's a course. Like the what they put together, and it really has been so thoughtful and enriching, like even from my point of view, like I've learned so much just from attending those, so I just wanted to fill the pause.
So how do you roll it out from this instructional leadership team so that it flows to the rest?
I think the idea is making it a building-wide read next year, now that all the department heads are involved, and we have at least one teacher, and often two, from each department who have voluntarily come in. So now we have a critical mass of people who are trained in kind of making the shift from audience, more kind of sage on the stage type of thinking, to a real engaging learning environment where students are doing the moving and the thinking and the collaborating and building the portrait skills, really having them be alive in the classroom. One of the questions that's guiding a lot of this is high schools are often guilty of having the most rigorous work for students happen when they're away from the expert, who is the teacher. So we're asking, if you want real rigorous work, the heaviest mental lift that you want, heaviest cognitive lift that you want for a student, it should be there with the teacher. Because the teacher's training is different. Getting home to a parent to get involved in much of the work we're doing in high school now is entirely unfair to the parent. It's really not the way that it's not solving math problems 3 different ways to show a mental dexterity. There's a lot to it that is different than the way many of us went through high school. So that being said, do the heavy lift right there with the teacher, so the teacher can be the trainer and make sure that you're getting the skills that you need.
So when you go around and you observe the classes,
Yes.
you can see this happening.
Yes, without a doubt. And you can see people taking more risks and trying it. And they know they have permission to take those risks because they're gonna learn more from it when it does stumble. And you can say, okay, guys, this went a little sideways. This is not what I expected. But you see people, I think, feeling more flexible, a little more liberated to try more creative things in the classroom. It's great to see. And I see it every day.
I just want to add that also Principal Clark has invited me and Director Kravitz. We have just started doing some walkthroughs even together, centered around the goals that are in this read, and really looking at student engagement, which has been at the center of that. And how do you know that your students engaged, not just like a passive receiver, and like even just from the work that you have done in such a short amount of time, definitely even from our eyes, like we noticed some of the instructional shifts, so.
One indication that it's catching on, I do believe, is teachers challenging each other with flimsy definitions. So when you talk about rigor, and a lot of people use it, and a lot of people talk about it. Now I think people have a foundation as to what rigor is. It's neither volume, nor is it, really it's not the volume, nor is it a short-term intensity. It's an intensity with duration where the student buys into it and can make meaning out of their own learning. So, and I love it when those conversations are happening in the hallway and you hear the teacher kind of challenge the other one to bring it around to kind of contemporary definitions of what good instruction looks like. Okay, thank you. So someone said a little corrupted on your worksheet. One of the, you can see it here, I think when it transferred to your document. Someone asked about some class sizes, so I went down, I took every 7th class out of the chart that it was provided, just to take a look at class sizes. The idea is when we do scheduling, we try to schedule with a floor of 14 and a ceiling of 24. That gives enough wiggle room to try to run a schedule, which is a very complex process. That means that some classes might be just shy of that 14. In some extreme cases, it might be more than 24. We have 3 classes currently in the school right now that are 25 or above, 3 actual class sessions. And we have a couple dozen that are below 14. So this just gives you, I think each department is represented here and just gives you a smattering of what the class sizes look like. Just took all the US history classes across the building, all the geometry classes, whatever level they are. There's some freshman courses, some senior courses there, so.
What about your large classrooms? Are they like gym?
Phys ed can be up to over, can be over the 24, and I think, yoga was huge last year, and I have to check the numbers on that this year. In the weight training, I think they keep a little lower. There is an upper level math that's pre-calculus, I believe it is. Kelly Terenzi's class, I think, has 25 in it. And can't remember the other 2, but a couple. And I know that it's been purposely designed that if we need to run those numbers up a little bit, we know there's students who have already demonstrated all the foundational skills. So the slightly larger class is not going to hinder any progress. So core courses generally run 2 to 4 students smaller than elective courses. And then by design, special ed, English learner, and alternative education are slated to be smaller. Could be IEP related, it could be just the needs of the student. You're not in a larger class for, say, our English learners who need more intense support. Okay. Tom, please.
Oh, I'm sorry, Tom.
I forgot I'm not calling them. I'm not the chair of it.
I guess for me, the question begs to be asked, how many classes, or are there, if any, that fall below the threshold of, say, 14 students per class, other than some of the core, other than special ed, English learner, alternative education?
Yeah, we definitely have measurably more that are around 14 than above 24. And I think we have a couple dozen sections that are 13, 12, and some of them are sequenced. So if someone has worked their way, oftentimes this is the scenario. Someone has worked their way all the way up in Spanish. And then you get to Spanish 5. And at the end of the whole process, there are 9 students who are ready for advanced placement Spanish 5, which is a full immersion, full speaking class. We don't cancel the class because there's only 10 students who made it up to that 5th level. So the answer is yes, there are classes that are below 14, and we carefully select which ones need to run. They're scrutinized by me, and I determine which ones should run to either keep sequences going or provide remediation that the student needs to get the momentum in freshman, sophomore year to have a trajectory.
Are there, and I don't know the pros and cons of it, you would, I know in previous years, we've done some consolidation of some of these classes. Are those opportunities there? I think some of the language classes we consolidated and.
Yes, we have a class of Latin right now. All the Latin students in the school are in one classroom at the same time.
How about the independent study? Is that still on?
Independent study exists.
How many of those do we have? Because I don't know if we dedicated one teacher.
No, independent study is topic specific, so we don't have one teacher who oversees all of them. If you're doing an independent study, say in fashion design, because you're advanced, you're in a classroom with an art teacher. If you're doing an independent study in English because you're making a poetry book, you're with an English teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, so no, we don't want to consolidate it because no single individual has all the expertise needed for that.
I had a question before. I had my hand up, but wasn't recognized. Probably because of the
Pointing the finger.
probably because of the visual.
Well, Tom, I called on you thinking I was the chair.
I was just curious. I know we have, and I'm kind of fuzzy on the numbers, but I know that we had trained a number of teachers in the IB process. And they went out, and maybe some of it happened before your time, and they went out at about 5,000 a pop, I think, to train a teacher in the IB techniques. I guess my question would be that these teachers have picked up some additional skills and are highly valuable to the educational process. If they migrated their way into learn, what is it, the instructional leadership team?
Yes, so I believe about half of the department heads, and I have to go back and take a look, have had some enhanced training, whether it's IB or it's instructional strategies based.
Okay.
But you can be a department head in the school without additional credentials, but I believe we have about half of them who have. And I have to look specifically and get back to you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Good, graduation requirements, so we've already discussed this, reassuring that we have a 4 of courses that line with, what the state is likely gonna be coming down with. We're aligned with Mass Core, in English and math. We are beyond the Mass Core standard with a 4th year of science. Social studies, we have 3 years, which is in line, and physical education has a requirement at freshman and sophomore year. But it is taught and available in all grades. We do not have just to speak to what we saw in the new graduation requirement presentation 2 days ago. We do not have a graduation requirement for bookend class, meaning how to come into high school for a freshman academy and get settled, how to exit school in the form of a senior seminar. So there's a topic that's going to be discussed in that realm. Secondly, we do not have a graduation requirement for personal finance. That's really stressed by both the commissioner and the secretary. We are seeing wellness-related issues with students and families relating to the stresses around their finance. So they're talking about the personal finance as being embedded, while it's mathematics and it's economics, it's a wellness-oriented course it's an interesting concept, looking at people looking at their money as an extension of their labor and their happiness, and their mental health. That was really fascinating to hear. World language, some of these other options are for potential graduation requirements not here. And the big one, capstone or portfolio in the senior year. So all students have the latitude to design something, see it all the way through, and then present it to their community. Without a doubt, we can see the strength of the message from the state about a capstone or portfolio. You saw some of it here with the senior experience, but that's only a couple dozen students. They're talking about whether Massachusetts is going to be making it a requirement or just be pushing the concept for students to design their own learning project and then figure out how they're going to report out to the school and to the community. So that's where we are with our graduation requirements.
I ask a question on this.
Please.
Every time we see this, it says, 4 years. Does that mean years or courses? I mean, for instance, can somebody take mathematics, 2 math courses as a junior and 2 science courses as a senior? Or do they have to take one as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior?
They don't need to take those 4 courses spread out over 4 years.
Okay.
A year of the course is a 1.0 credit.
Okay.
So students who are advanced in math, to get to Cal BC, might take algebra 2 and geometry at the same time.
So you could take, so it's not really 4 years, it's 4 courses.
It really should say 4 units.
4 units.
Yes,
Okay.
our language in our program studies it in multiple places. Years is synonymous with units in multiple places. Maybe it should be changed for, yeah.
It's a full year unit, 4 years.
Full year, right? 1.0, not 0.5. 0.5 is the semester. So, and there is a task force and a group getting underway to look at the health, wellness, and physical education to particularly beef up the health offerings. And we have reserved a room and some materials as the health classroom as we open phase 2 in a couple of weeks. So the idea that we're beefing up that instruction. And then the other question was grade promotion. To move into the next grade, you need to have a certain volume of credits and particular classes passed. The only time that there's any wiggle room to this that I sign off on largely is when a student comes from outside of the country and their pathway just looks so different that holding someone as a freshman when they are older and of the, should be with a group from a social standpoint of a certain age. We try to figure out the comparison of the transcript to approve the credits as best we can to help the student. But by and large, there is a number of credits that you need to pass and particular classes, particular courses in each grade to move into the next grade. So whether you see that that's the English, English 9, 10, and 11, because there's 4 years and it is part of Mass Core, it's kind of the anchor of Mass Core, you need to pass those classes to move into the next grade. Students do have the opportunity to take a summer school course. If they earn a 50 in their course during the regular school year, they have access to a summer school class, and they can take the summer school class to fill in the gaps that they're earning and then pass the class so they can start the next year. And that is, there's a picture of graduation.
So, I just have a question. So, for freshmen, they have a potential grade of 7 credits in 1 year.
Correct.
So they just have to pass 6 of those 7.
Correct.
And then in sophomore year, at this 12 credits, that's both freshman and sophomore year.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, it's cumulative.
Okay.
And the idea is if you get to the 19 credits by your junior year, there's a great likelihood that we can get you over the bar of the graduation requirements to be able to get graduation on time. Okay? I'm happy to help.
Okay, are there any more questions, discussion, further discussion on this? Sure.
I'm trying to understand the different departments. If you look at the program of studies online, are all the bolded areas the departments, or how do you look at departments? At one point, we talked about like a document that had them all the departments listed. Is that what the program of study, if you look at the table of contents online, is it all the bolded ones that are the department? How many departments are there?
Not exactly, no,
Okay.
9 departments.
Okay.
And we had a 2.75 teacher department up until last year, which I dissolved and put those teachers in other departments, because there's no momentum when you only have one colleague for your department work. So the idea being, the program of studies this year is broken down by courses. After we rewrite the descriptions and add those courses into their new departments for next year, then I can identify the title of the department as the title of each program of study section. Right now, it's course specific, not department specific.
Okay, yeah, that would be super helpful.
Yes.
And even if you had a document with the department head on it, it would be great to visualize that, because we get questions about that sometimes. It comes
Yes.
up, like what's here, what's there, and I'm never quite sure.
So the student and family guidebook, I think it's page 3 or 4, has the chart of all the department heads, their contact information, extension, and their email, but that should probably be included in some other places then.
Yeah, something, yeah. The other question, community service is not a requirement at this point?
You have no graduation requirement for community service. The graduation requirements are just in the grade. We do recognize in various ways thresholds of community service in terms of what core you earn at graduation and kind of how we plot that around the campus. But no, there's no graduation requirement for community service.
That's it, if I can ask, that's a great example of something where if there was a strong desire by the sitting committee having graduation requirements, right, it provides the appropriate level of approval and backing for the school administration and staff to have that kind of thing in place. And it really puts obviously stakes in the ground around what is felt to be important, whether it's a capstone project that Pat talked about, or community service learning. Those are the kind of things that, from my perspective, should be absolutely within this document that ultimately, as a governing body, you're approving. So that then as Pat and his team goes out there and you go out there in your roles, that conversation comes up and someone says, community service learning, one day, right? It comes back to this kind of discussion. So I didn't know what we go forward.
I think just following on that, over the time I've been on the school committee, this has come up sometimes, but it's never gone anyplace. I think it was discussed a little bit when we were doing, strategic plan when we were on. Was to actually develop because we saw examples when we were doing the strategic plan of really true service learning programs, at schools and what they can do, rather than just, I get a community service hour because I do this, and I get a couple of hours because I do that. I don't know, that looks good on the college applications, but it's not a service learning program where they get deeper into some things and, you know, it's a very two-way street. The kids are getting a lot from that, are getting deep into that. I would love to see, some exploration in that as we go forward, and hopefully in the strategic plan would be discussed, because there are some great programs out there where kids can really get involved in their communities deeply and in real life issues. And it's gratifying to the person who does it.
And Judy, to one point, and some of these interesting opportunities often get blended. So if you have a service learning component, which is a graduation component, or you have a capstone project, and can one actually be one and the same? Or is it okay that they have a junior or senior experience where they choose one of those avenues? So those are questions that we'll have to talk about and vet later on as it aligns with strategic plan, as it aligns with the portrait skills that we expect students to have when they graduate. Any other questions that I can help with?
Great.
A quick question. One, for AP, are you required to take the AP test if you are enrolled in the AP class?
Yes.
Okay. Because that was not the case when I was in high school, so I was. And two, do we ever have anything like a job fair or something for community organizations to come in and do?
We do, in a couple of formats. The most recent format in the last few years was called Adulting 101. So we partnered with our PTO, and they brought folks in over the course of 2 different days of lunches, I believe, and students would go make their way around and speak to people who do all sorts of careers and have all sorts of passions beyond their careers. So fascinating.
So, and then how do you get involved as a community member to be part of that type of experience where you can?
I will send you the board for the PTO. And
Okay.
believe me, if you offer, they will take advantage of that. But it's been great. We also do have a solid number of folks from our police departments and local insurer and who are embedded in classrooms, because I'm asking people, if your curriculum, the work in your curriculum is the work of someone who is outside making money using those skills in your curriculum, please explain that to students, because the why of why they're learning starts going, oh, that person does what? That person makes what? It's an interesting lever, a great motivator for teenagers.
Great. Just in here, because part of the discussion we've kind of put on the back burner for years is, if a course is offered in the high school, this is decided that we get rid of it, who makes that decision? I somewhere read that it was our job, that it was the school committee's job to decide what courses are offered and not offered. It's not like we have whatever, but if something's gonna be, it's brought to us before it's gotten rid of, we need this discussion. This is me, we've never done it, we've had this discussion over the years. But what is the process? And we should, when we're looking at this and having a discussion of these courses being gone, but we should make sure that we have a system in place of how do we do them.
Well, I think, gotten rid of, or I think framing that's important. I mean, what I mean by that is not running a course because of under enrollment or low interest is one thing, and that could ebb and flow from one year to the next, theoretically, right? And so that decision may need to be made. And similarly, if it's, let's say, within the art department, just making this up, and there's an oversubscription or over interest in another course that's in that department, I would imagine that and his staff would have to make that decision to maybe not run one course from more staffing into the other. I think that's very different from my experience and how I could come at this from having a course altogether offered and included in the program of studies. Because that's obviously tying up resources, personnel to potentially, pursue the offering of that course. The reduction of staffing, budgets involved, and the reduction of staffing certainly is obviously front and center component for all of that. And I can't speak to how it's been done in the past, obviously, but to me, I think that there can be things that evolve over time from the time the budget's approved. For example, if there's a retirement, that happens, and some of that was, it happened as I understand it last year. So I guess it depends on the circumstance and the situation, but if you're gonna include robotics as a class or a program within your program of studies, obviously we need to try and ensure Pat and his staff have the necessary staff personnel to run that. If robotics is really undersubscribed, then that's another thing that, on a year-to-year basis, then the decisions have to be made. So I think though, if it relates to staffing going forward, and there's particular, I'm using robotics, I'm not picking robotics teacher, that there's one teacher and he or she was there to deliver programming, and then there was that teacher retired or left the district, and there couldn't be a replacement found. And I think that merges into a whole different realm of, back to the school committee, say, here's where we're at. And we decided to reduce that individual, that teacher. So I guess it depends on the circumstance, but I think there's a clear intersection between the budget you approve, the program of studies you approve, and how the administration then has to manage that.
Yeah, yes, but I think the bottom line is that, as a school committee, we should know what courses are being offered and not being offered at high school. And if there is that is constant, that has not been something that has occurred. And also when we're talking about also just, FTE, full-time employees, what that looks like and how that is changing on a yearly basis. And I don't know that I see those as one, I see them separate. I mean, the educational part is an important part, but the other side is the budget part. You gotta have both in line.
I think we do have a policy, I'd have to go dig it up. And I don't know.
It was in there.
Yeah, it used to be, and the old policy manual, I can't quote it. But I don't know if we approve the deletion and so we are certainly, I think it's certainly in there that we review it. And I don't know if it goes as far as approved, but if a program is dropped, or if a new one is introduced, we certainly are supposed to be advised before it's done. And we can get the policy and bring it to the next school committee.
This has just been a weak area we've had discussion on for
Yes.
years. It just,
Absolutely.
there should be a procedure put in place. It doesn't really matter what it is, but the main point is there should be communication, and there has been things that be missing and not missing. People go, come, people get hired. There's been a lot that's going on.
It's been a revolving door.
Yeah. And just an observation from a principal standpoint, I love this. Because the structure of what's being asked is framed, the slides that I bring are based on the questions that you provided. And when we do it in that manner, you're prepared, you know what the questions are going to be, and then you folks get the information that you're asking for. I think sometimes when something's come up in the past and it's become an interest, you might have a question for information that the principal doesn't have readily available with them at that time, or it doesn't have a presentation for you. So I love the structure and the organization of this, just for a little feedback.
Well, just the architect program was gotten rid of because of retirement, right, and lack of.
A non-certified teacher.
Right, so I think there's some of that too, is that we are facing a decrease in available educators in certain positions. And, access, so that's something that's way outside of your control and our control.
I don't think there's any question about that. I think it's a question of making sure that the school committee is informed and there can be a discussion of it in a timely manner.
I know that this took a little bit longer tonight to go through, but Pat, thanks for your work on all of this.
Let's go.
You know, going
It's very-
forward, you've got in your document, in your packet, the full 84, however many pages, it's extensive, it's 84 pages of the actual program of studies. And it's a lot for you to digest, and so we want to provide you with time, a little more time if you have feedback, questions that emerge. Please forward them through the chair for me, and we can follow up with that. As I mentioned, this is here for a first read tonight. You should consider that sort of similar to a policy. Second read and approval would be sought at their January 22nd meeting. And then once it's approved, it goes forward from there. In the future, going forward, I think this could be a little tighter, a little shorter for your review, because this was a little bit more about opening the curtains on the high school in a lot of different ways that I think was helpful and wonderful. The idea here is to use this program of studies as a document that's redlined, right? So it shows you very clearly as a school committee member what the proposed changes are, what the courses might be that are being proposed to be deleted and added and so on. So it's a starting point, it's a first pass, and I think it's a good one, and I thank you for your feedback on all of this, and we'll be back for your hopeful.
Well, I think I can speak for the whole committee. I mean, they'll chastise me if I think I'm turn. But certainly for Chris and I, that was for a while. This is the first time we've seen this. This is great. It's great to have this discussion. This is one of the better discussions that I think we've had about the programs of school. It answers a lot of questions. It answers some questions that I didn't even know I had, and so this is good. So I think this is fantastic. Do you want to vote on this or?
No, the intention is just,
Yeah.
January, 22nd meeting, would be the vote for approval for the.
Okay, we still have a lot to go through, folks. This is gonna be thank you, Pat.
And just one other point to finish, so I believe it's a 5-day turnaround between the vote on this the next time that you folks all meet. And the date that I would like to have it for our school counselors to start talking to students about, because they'll be making their choices within a week to 10 days after that. We want them and families to have enough. So by and large, anything that you see that you'd like to have edits or feedback, I'd love to get that as soon as we can, and then I will get that back to you in the form of final form if there's any other
How
adjustments.
about if I put up a Google Doc for the school committee? And as you go through it, do you have any suggestions? We'll put you on it, you can look at it as it moves along. And then it will just be a real time effort.
Perfect.
I'll do that, okay?
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, all right, we're 2 hours in and we still have a lot to go, so. There is candy over there, it's chocolate, it's from a chocolate sparrow. So if anybody needs.
Yeah, I'll watch that
that.
out, street now.
Get you another hour.
Okay, moving on, financial report.
Sure, I'll just, keep going, either order. First up is the financial report, you know, these are flying, these are hot off the press, really the next, couple of items, and so and I know you understand that, we are still seeking something that's consistent in structure. And, you know, behind the scenes, we're having a couple of different gentlemen who are helping move us forward is sort of not allowing for that to happen, but at the same time, there's still a commitment to try and provide, in this case, this evening, the regional committee and obviously all of the elementary committees with an insight in terms of what the financial picture looks like. So this was a report run December 15th, a couple of days ago. And it gives you a snapshot of where we're at, budget to actuals, the amount covered, and then the variances moving forward. The financial team, and just broadly speaking, are in comparison to when we were last year, There's far greater attention, as I've come to learn, on the encumbrances and not over encumbering. Or tying up funds that don't need to be. So if there's anything to certainly pass through to you, it's just that. There's a lot of eye behind that. And a lot of that is on obviously all the financial affairs. So I may not be able to answer specific questions that you have tonight, but I certainly will share them back with Bob Dutch or Paul Dollar, and then get back to you if you have any questions on the financial report. It's conference.
So. Nice. That's why no one could see your hand, because you keep it so low.
I just went over real quick. Well, I applaud you. I remember the last one we got, and Paul was committed to go back and redo it and keep working at it. When I add up all of them, it looks like we're a little bit over $1 million. Pretty good as far as what we haven't spent, or I know when I asked Paul, he had said that that this should give us a fairly accurate, once we have it fine tuned.
Yeah.
Of where we're gonna finish the year.
Yeah.
And we can use this as a tie back while we're doing the budget to see what we actually spent this year. I know it's a lot to put the actual 26 into the budget presentation. That's not an expectation I have, but we can refer back to this at least to get a ballpark. When I looked at it, like middle school, the question I would have is credit. Is anyone following the credits we're getting from the solar panels? The offset. It looks like we have a nursing shortage. And if you jump to the high school, we've got we're in the red $80,000 in nursing there too. So I don't know if that's a need or a miscoding of budgets, since we're over on the staffing overall. I don't know that. That would just give me an idea that maybe there's a need or a coding issue. When it goes to region shared, what jumped out at me was the technology being over $89,000. Is that going to be, it's just a question, I don't expect an answer, but is that going to be then shared with is that expense eligible to be shared with the elementary schools? Or is this our budget and that's it, and what we're allocating is what we're allocating?
Great question. Yeah. That's what
The region shared, this isn't just our portion, this is the whole region shared budget, isn't it? 2.8 million, that's not our share of it.
Yeah, that's the whole budget.
It's the whole budget, so yes, that
So
89,000 would be shared with everybody.
In terms of the, Tom, in terms of your questions on that, things are sticking out with questions, and we should, certainly will follow up, and I think it will be helpful for everybody, myself included, is to have Paul or Bob, depending on which they're looking at, to try and provide a highlight and examine kind of description on any concerns or red flags that, and for some of these, there may be a great explanation for them, to alleviate any concerns. So I'll try and follow up on the next week with that.
Sorry, mine
Please.
was similar to yours, but mine really was more around salaries. So even though he did mention it, like I see it all like paraprofessionals, nursing, the building leadership salary. Did we go through a recent change in our contracts that increased salaries more expectantly than what we were budgeting for? Is that part of it?
Which line are you?
Well, so I'm looking at like the building and leadership salary, that's over by 92,000. The nursing is 80. And as he said, it's both of them, so it's also at the middle school. Utilities, I understand going up because I feel like everyone's dealing with utilities going up, paraprofessional, substitute, long term. So I look at those as all like salary.
Yeah.
So did we have a recent change in the union contracts that wasn't anticipated in the budget or?
No, we're in the second year of the three-year contract, and so, with the full assumption that the adjustments were made accordingly this time last year for the increases, there are no increases across the board,
Right.
all the contractors were settled, so what we're leading to that, I'm not sure, so I think.
I was trying to give you something.
But, you know, when we get to the FY 27 budget, we're going into next year with a no increase third year of the three-year contract. 2.25% increase, and so that's factored into the salary rollovers fiscal year 27.
Well, are paraprofessionals usually staff support for children on programs or that's something different?
No, that's right.
And those would be, paraprofessionals generally, is there a reimbursement process that we?
No.
No?
I don't think we get reimbursed on chairs.
Unless the student is the school choice, them get it.
They give us a low credit per hour, I think, so that's it, like $15 an hour. Isn't it?
I have to double check that.
Is
So
it,
I can certainly follow up on the general questions.
in the region only, this is the second year in a row, I know we're looking at insurances going way up.
Yes.
Which we can't control, but we had a surplus is anticipated at $388,000 this year on our insurances. And last year, I think we got a give back, to our E&D for insurances. So it just might be something I'd look at when we look at the overall budgeting of insurance. The other was special ed going up beyond the district. That's kind of bad news, good news. Bad news this year, maybe good news next year when we're doing the budget. Because it's a high amount we're a year behind on the reimbursement. So I don't know if that. And please, anybody else pipe in, those were things that.
Yeah, I would just echo that, it's hard to really make sense of this without justification, so when they are able to do it.
Yes.
That would be great it's hard to just pick it apart. So I think that'll be a good.
Everybody's back, we'll do it in January and
Yeah.
Subcommittee meeting, because a lot of those things will be answered, which is.
Question, why are we $1,068,000 on OD tuition private?
Because we got two county districts.
I will talk about that in the budget presentation, yes, but there's a clear answer that.
Didn't he also say that he expected that to come down after the first of the year for some reason, the one-to-one thing? There's some one-to-one consideration with a couple of those students that.
Oh, that may change.
I don't recall it exactly, sorry, I'm going blank on.
We could be talking about a reassessment or something like that, that may change, yeah. A budget and finance committee.
But that increase is tied to our district, with two students, it's significant.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Can I say one more thing, a kind of question? It was mentioned at our meeting, the subcommittee meeting, that, as we refine this, we probably should look at revenues too, see if there's shortfalls. I think you brought that up, it's a great point.
Well, absolutely, I mean, it's clear.
Once we get to refine.
The offsets are critical in our budget picture, the revenues and other offsets that we do not have them as we move into the FY 27 budget preliminary tonight, but we will have those as part of the budget picture in January when we're next together. And the folks are working on pulling those together.
Thank you.
So
Thanks for your effort, you guys. Great.
Can I just one other, sorry, in our presentations in the past, we always have got the, E&D surplus, or whatever, actually, it's kind of running calculations, E&D, where it was thought to end the year.
Yeah.
We haven't seen these numbers forever.
It's coming, it is.
Okay, I'm sorry.
No, I appreciate you asking the question, and it is, a victim of, it's been a victim of circumstances, but it is. I think we're all wrapped up, EV, sorry, is now wrapped up. We will await the certification of the site, there's a timeline for that, but you'll have a picture of what that looks like in January. I mean, I think that folks, they have it right now, but it just didn't get to this presentation right.
I think also, Bob Dutch had a whole series of, because everybody had complained about the dashboard. And so he had a series of, reports that he was, going to give, like quarterly, this one this month, another one the next month, and had it all laid out there. So there is a period for this. But circumstances haven't allowed him to get it all out there, so.
First, if you've got an old dashboard, it's the first six, topics, before you start it. It's like 1 through 10. It's the first six that we're gonna be reporting out on a either on a monthly or quarterly or semi-annual to get the information.
All right,
Okay,
so if we can move along, we're gonna go to enrollment for regional assessments.
so you have a document, I'm thinking about this is one of the last gifts that Arlen has, and thank goodness, because I
Thank you.
I don't yet have the instructions on how to put this together, so she did. This is a sheet that I understand has been used in the past, so it should have the exact same look and layout of which remembers who've been around the table before. Hopefully it looks very familiar. It provides an overview, of course, of enrollment across the middle school and high school, and it's a 2-page, as you can see. And then the calculations that are, again, as are used for assessment purposes down at the bottom left side on page 2. If you are new to the committee, I join you and try to figuring all of this out, but this provides that overview that obviously is an important tool.
The town certainly wanna know this, because, I mean, basically, this is it's based on the number of students that each town has. And so Brewster will be paying 45.8523% of our budget, and we can read down. And then over and to the right of that, you'll see where some assessments are going up, and others down. Wellesley is interesting, it's going down 6.9%. Last year, it went up like 13%, so it
Change 1 or 2 students in the whole
Yeah.
place.
So we only have 538 high school students right now.
Nope, there's more than that right now.
So-
729.
That's resident.
Oh, it's based, I just had part staff, I was like, we only have.
So,
Yeah, that's without choice.
Holy. Okay.
I just have a my question, so it's based on FY 27 town assessments, but it's for the current school year now.
It's based on October 1st. Yeah. And this is one of the things that the town requested. This, the change in the regional agreement, this was the genesis for everything, was to, switch from doing it on a particular year, to, average of the last 3 years, so that it takes care of some of these spikes for towns going up and down, and there's just better predictability.
Okay, let's move on.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, so, so you have, 2 documents, that I'll refer to that will be in the packet for members of the community rather than following line for members of the school committee. One is the slide deck that I'll go through here that Janet, you can bring up on the screen. And then the other is a complementary document that I was trying to use slide decks are fine, but you can't tell the whole story within the deck itself, I don't think. Or you don't wanna see that slide deck is 45 slides, so, I'll walk you through the big picture here, tonight, and I'll try to go as quickly as I can. I know it's been a long night, folks, but this is obviously important as we get into this. So, right, just as sort of a precursor, as a reminder, I know that some of these terms are maybe a little bit different than, my predecessor used in the past, necessarily we talked about, it's nice preliminary, it's meant to be high level. We've said this maybe a little bit earlier also than you've seen in the past, but nevertheless, what we do know, with some degree of predictability is what enrollment is looking like for next year, what our staffing needs are looking like next year, the salary rollover per 3-year agreement, for the 3-year collectively bargained agreement. So there's certainly big picture items that are coming into play that at this early stage help shape, the budget picture going forward. Financial team and our leadership team are still hard at work to try and make sure that nothing's been forgotten. Where can we seek some efficiencies to reduce budget lines and so on? So I just want to make sure that there's a clarity around sort of where we're at. The document, the memo, to refer to that as you'll have some links in there. We're trying to allow you to click through to see active and current enrollment information, for example. And you'll see, I'll profile the slide deck, the class size at both the middle school and the high school. Not on slides, but in the packet is a more in-depth overview of staffing across both the high school and middle school. Obviously, bottom line staffing and the salary roll up is critical for your budget. But equally, I think is critical is to really put it in the context of the full-time equivalent or FTE, that's the body count. And salaries, of course, they do change, but just as a teacher at the top end of the salary grade could retire, we could bring in another teacher at a lower end of the grid salary table, but it's still a teacher that is a 1.0. So you will see my tracking of this as we go forward as an FTE comparison from one year to the next, because I think that that's really important. And I think that that's really important here in Nauset in particular, as we're obviously also focused on reduction in enrollment and the tracking of how is that aligned from an FTE or full-time equivalency count, which we can talk more about. So in the report, you'll see, or the memo, you'll see an overview of enrollment by category. If you're curious, the categories for staffing on the left-hand side, 8301 is example of principals. That's the current code that we use in SoftWrite, the financial reporting system. So that's not a number that we sort of just made up, but that's used in SoftWrite. Those numbers will change as we get into the new financial reporting system for next year, but we've included them here now. We'll go through the proposed changes and a comparison for fiscal year 26 to 27, and not necessarily so much a budget item, but in the packet as well, you'll find a link to the organization chart for the central office. A large share of obviously the region budget. Some folks have asked for that. I've also included an update on the financial reporting system. Not so much driven to the FY27 budget, but just an important piece for the committee, and I think our community to be aware of. And I also link to the Nauset budget primer. This is a great document that Brewster resident, I think, put together by Tobias. And if you are new to budgeting, new to Nauset budgeting and the regional budget, this is a great document. It's very comprehensive, very well done, and provided with their story. For anyone at home who will be watching this or over today. So let's jump into the slide deck, and then obviously stop me if you have questions along the way, and we can wait until the end too. As always, this is not, I'm speaking to this budget, but this relies upon a full host of folks that include our principals, of course, and as well members of our central office and district leadership team, who have put in endless hours to the state and will continue over the next number of months to help bring these budgets to the point of seeking your approval. Next slide, please. Preliminary budget overview. So as mentioned, please keep in mind that this is high level right now. It's what's anticipated something could change tomorrow or the next, as we get into next week, that was realized or an adjustment that needs to be made that will find its way into the next budget presentation in later January. So work is still ongoing, and I just think that that's important to underscore. We talked about the offsets, for example, earlier. Yeah, taking a look at what we anticipate for grants, although grants we never know for sure this point in the year, but there's lots of things that have to fall into place. That are being worked on by members of the finance team. Obviously for the region here, well, you all know this, but I'm reminding myself, we're here talking about specifically the middle school, the high school, the regional expenses as we look ahead for next year. A parallel track ongoing is the budget developments within the elementary schools and the central office budget, which is also ongoing, and we will be moving in the first week when we get back in January to continue to focus on developing that. Next slide, please. I think that it's important to point out, and I'm doing my best to try and take a look at the documentation that we have on file in the central office, which it's something that I will need to attend to as we think about our fiscal related tracking of information. Staffing is one of those. What I can find through Deirdre and our director of HR, sort of a higher level of confidence, is looking back to fiscal year 24 for staffing numbers. And that's not to suggest that we don't have it on file, but we don't have it in one comprehensive document that I was expecting to find and see. That makes it a little bit more difficult. Hence why I've only got back to fiscal year 24. But the thing to just profile here that I think is important, and again, it's in line with obviously a focus and an interest and a concern by community members around what is the staffing, what's going on with staffing as it relates to continual decline in enrollment. What I found, and just to bring to attention here, is from in fiscal year 24 at the middle school, I have to understand that there were 107.9 FTEs. So that's all of the individuals that are paid through the budget in the middle school, from paraprofessionals to administrators, teachers to custodians. Everybody is in that mix. In fiscal year 26, what I've learned is that number decreased to 97 point and changed, 97.26. I'm not exactly sure how the 26 gets calculated, but that's why we use the FTE count. At the high school in 24, my understanding there were 125.9 FTEs. In fiscal year 26, and so that's to where we open the school year this year, 120.1 FTEs. This goes a bit, I think, Krista, your question earlier tonight and others around what happened from the time that the budget was approved in the spring to the opening of school this year. And there always can be, from my experience, some fluctuations or adjustments. Somebody leaves a position and you just can't fill it. That happens. I'm not sure all of the decision around this, but what I have understood is that these teachers listed here, and I cross-checked this with Deirdre today, we checked with Pat, that these teachers that you see on the screen at the bottom of the high school were in the budget that you approved last year, but for various reasons were not in place at the opening school this year. So these teachers were reduced, and that gives rise to that difference in the FTE. Next slide, please. At this preliminary juncture, how I generally approach this is to, with full respect to the folks who are putting together these budget plans, is to share them with you as a school committee to give you a glimpse in terms of what's being identified and recommended for new positions or different financial resources. This does not mean that they necessarily will obviously be included in this budget plan to be delivered to you to vote on, but to give some attention to the thinking of in this case, the high school, middle school principal. High school principal Pat Clark and his team in their budget requests have included a proposal of an additional 0.5 FTE for school counseling, and specifically to help the counseling and guidance of students graduating from high school into the post-high school planning, and 1.0 FTE for health and health teacher. The middle school has requested an additional 0.4 FTE for nursing. They currently have 1.6, so one full-time and a portion of a nurse for part-time. The belief by not just Peter Cohen, but Mariana Reed, based upon our visits, that there's some data that was calculated, was recommendation that would be really best to go to 2 full-time nurses at the middle school here. So that's the additional 0.4. Peter Cohen has also included a number of additional stipends, so not positions per se, but a number of additional stipends that he's proposed that he would love to see brought on board to help continue to support his efforts of extracurricular activities and pursuits for students. There's for example, an effort to try and expand the athletic program for middle school kids that are here. So there's a number of resources that he's identified and put forth as a request that are part of his budget. In terms of regional positions, we've talked about both of these before, but just as a reminder, the proposed budget includes a 1.0 FTE, or to include that with Director of Communications, and then a 1.0 Assistant Director of Food Services, and a friendly reminder that a Director of Food Services will be paid for 100% through revolving account for food services. Next slide. So thank you to Bob Dutch and his work in pulling all of this together based upon the data that he has gathered from our sensibles and other members of the central office team. What this shows you is a preliminary budget number for NRMS, National Nauset Regional Middle School level service. So just a clarification. So level service, think about this as rolling over the existing staff that are currently in place right now, and taking into account the contractual increases that are necessary and other increases, health insurance, for example. We'll talk about that in a moment.
Sorry, health insurance is included in salary or?
It is, health insurance is included in salary. Yeah. So you can see here, just for the middle school, we're only presenting this right now in sort of these different silos, if you will, middle school level service. But this doesn't reflect the additional 0.4 nurse as you'll see, but you'll see what this totals, total school operating down the bottom. There's still lots of work to go with offsets. Just for now, Bob has added that in, but there is still certainly work to incorporate there. But total school operating budget, you can see the bottom right hand corner increase the line at just under 6%. Next slide. Sorry.
Health insurance is in here? I don't.
Health insurance is in there. Yes.
Everything that is staff related
It's
is
in,
included
yeah,
in
and
salary.
I can't speak, I've seen that, I've seen the.
I just don't want to pass it wasn't. So-
Yeah, no, it's in here, yeah. Next slide, national, next is the high school level service, again, rolling over existing staff that are currently in place that started the school year in place. So that group of staff that I showed you earlier that were reduced, they're not in this mix. But existing teachers and staff collectively rolling over here, what you can see is the increase for salaries and expenses, and the total school operating 3.42% increase.
So I could just think that, so when you're talking level service, you're talking not what we budgeted last year, but what we started.
Correct.
At the
Another way is FY26 starting actual staff,
Yeah.
actual staff.
Right,
So there was a group of staff that were
Right.
reduced.
right,
We've not added them back here.
okay.
Which is also why, and this caught my attention at first, why the overall high school staffing is not as high as.
Percentage,
right.
So,
Remote.
okay, next slide. So what this looks like, this slide here shows you back to the middle school with the additional requests. So you recall I said earlier that Peter had put forth the 0.4 FTE increase for nursing and then some additional salaries for stipends. They're all baked in here, if you will, rolled together. And this gives you a view of what that looks like when these are added into the middle school. Then the next slide, please.
So if I could hear, so the level funded budget for the middle school would get us up by 6%. Right.
School.
But the current request coming in now with the middle school is an increase of 3%. That's the request. Just this budget that we're looking at right now is the requested budget, right?
Yes. Yes,
With additional.
with additional requests, yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just not sure how we. Wow, we have an 11% increase in, so we.
Which one are you looking at?
3% increase is what it's total is.
To clarify, which one are you looking at?
I'm looking at, sorry, 27 preliminary budget. We're looking at 3%.
For the middle school?
Yeah.
If you're looking at specifically.
Yeah.
So the middle school, the 3% is the increase, yeah, no, it's a little, the 3% is the increase for the additional staff related positions. When that's all incorporated together, it's a 5.9% increase for middle school.
Gotcha, we have a general voice, okay, sorry, yeah.
Do we know what the projected increase for the health insurance is? Because I'm hearing it's a lot, like,
It is.
it's like a 12%
Yeah,
projection.
I'm gonna, I'll hit upon that in just a moment.
I still don't understand the level service budget and the additional request budget. It looks like the additional request budget is actually lower the way it's reading, so if we can like take a second and just go through that more slowly, like how you're presenting it.
Yeah, and like I said, I agree with that. It's.
Yeah, I don't, especially for the next company.
So we go back to middle school level service,
Yeah.
if you can, right? So
Yeah.
when you roll together, roll over, if you will, the current staffing at the middle school, that would let, just for the middle school is 5.98%. So 376,000, just a little bit over that for salaries. And then expenses, almost 220,000. So Bob's tallied that up for the total school operating. It gives you the comparison there for fiscal year 26 budget at 9.9 and change, the proposed level service, and then that difference. So it's an overall increase for the middle school of $596,112 or 5.98%. So that's not with the new position or additional stipend salary that Peter's requested.
Level service, would you say that was kind of like for us to open the doors with everything in place as it is now?
Yeah, so that's right, yeah.
So how, but I can understand how you calculate level service for personnel, but how do you calculate it for expenses?
So expenses has, and you'll see all of these line items broken out in January, that is utilities, that is insurance, that is, gosh, there's a lot of others.
So when you say level service, you're putting in there an increase.
For any known increases,
Okay. Got it.
the increases, yes.
Okay.
So the next slide goes to the high school. So the high school level service, taking all of the current staff that's there, rolling them over, building in the increases for health insurance. I'll break that down, we'll see that again in just a moment. And then the expenses there, so overall salaries within any new positions is 2.78%. And just again, that's not going up as much as the middle school because there's the reduction in the staffing and our budget next year. Expenses 8.52%. Bob's calculations, when you combine all that together in a mix for the high school specifically, and only is 3.42%. Sorry, I was going fast, but does that help bring slowing this down? Slowing this down.
The confusion comes next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It does. Middle school with additional requests, next slide. So if you add in those positions. So that's the golden rod or the yellow, whatever you should call that, on the left is the additional staff and positions. And so total at the middle school, the overall increase of additional staff. Positions and such, 435,000. So it went from 376,759 to 435,829, which increased from 4.27% for salaries to 4.95%. And expenses, down the bottom, the reduction there.
Comes from.
The what reduction there is.
Like we save money somehow.
Yeah.
Well, that's the part of me, because if you just, because we level funded it, we were gonna be up 18% in that line.
I've got to check her.
It doesn't, the logic doesn't, well,
No, it doesn't for that.
unless we're cutting.
I mean, I like it.
Cutting supplies to, yeah,
No, there's obviously a story.
yeah, there's something.
There's a story to that.
And also the 5%, when we're saying the addition of this with additional requests, it's the 5% plus the 3% that's on the right.
I think that 3% is wrong because the expense is going.
It's
all nice, it's like a formula.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I will talk with Bob tomorrow. We'll ask him to dig into this and then I'll send you the update.
Yes.
Now, high school with additional requests. Yeah, so that's clearly an error there because in this,
Yeah.
high school, sure, you see the expenses stay status quo or static rather. And then this reflects the additional positions that I mentioned that Pat has included, the health teacher and the school counselor. So when you add those all together, the numbers are correct, or 3% increase for the high school.
So I know we had talked about this for the staffing for the counseling office. Right now, the contract did not have them working in the summer, including the administrative support. Did you look into that?
It does have days for them in the summer. How they're distributing those or going about the scheduling.
Right.
That I'm not exactly sure.
Right.
But the counseling as a larger point of focus, I think would be, I've suggested that would be wise to come and share with the school committee about.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have an issue per se with the staff that does the counseling. I think it's more of the administrative support during those summer months when we're talking about bringing in more support for kids that are transitioning, that kids who have left Nauset who need access to their records during the summer, it's an easier time.
Yeah. I mean, usually, there is no doubt, I'm trying to phone call in the summer and get somebody to answer at the high school. It's not happening, it doesn't happen, and so there needs to be, I mean, it is in Japanese, so we're not caring for our customer base, but in the same sense, when we're talking about trying to attract new people, there's no opportunity for that because there's nobody answering the phone. So I mean, it's just not a good service, we're not doing service. I'm not.
We'll definitely talk more as a, in front of the committee, the chair's permission to add as a.
Sure.
Next slide, so, the preliminary budget region only, would be the next slide, and you can see here, what the increases would be for salaries. And expenses. This is where you get into, I'll speak about this in a moment, special education tuition is a large driver. In the health insurance, and then you can see the roll up. I don't have a more additional breakdown of the offsets here that Bob has put into this, but this would get into additional, obviously, state aid that will break out, so you can see what that actually looks like in all the detail. If you go to the next slide.
Just a thought here,
Yeah.
I think when you talk about health insurance being in salaries, I'm pretty sure health insurance falls here for us. But your salaries are going to look like 2.78%, where.
I'm sorry, I meant to say that, yeah, it's in
Yeah.
the salaries and the, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It's in that,
That's what I was looking.
so the changes, the staffing changes here, I mean, I touched upon these, so. Just go to the next slide, Jen, please. So the budget drivers, so health insurance, it's only the last few weeks, it's become pretty clear, there's a lot of doubt, a lot of concern around what this looks like. We don't have, we don't have any specific guidance, nor have there been any final decisions made on health insurance, but numbers that have been suggested for entities like us planning could be between 10 and 15% increase for next year. This is very fluid. My understanding in talking to our representative on our group is that it won't be until the 1st of February until there's final decisions on this. I've reached out to the town managers to get a sense of what they're including or planning to include, in their budget. I've only heard back from one yet, so I'm going to hear back from the others to see, but right now Bob's recommendation, and he's factored in a 14% increase here, which translates to, it's a rounded number, but it's just short of 600,000 for staff. So a potential huge increase with our
Do
first
we,
bus.
because we are regional, do we give health insurance based on the town that they're in, or we have like
No.
Orleans Elementary School, we're not talking about that, we're just talking.
This is
about-
for our group of employees,
This is-
the school, high school, and
Okay.
the central office.
And do we participate in Cape Cod Healthcare like like the towns do? Are we part of the municipal?
We are.
Okay, so we are part of the Cape Cod ones. Do we offer different percentage payments based on what they're enrolled in? Or are we contract based? So I've seen towns where they will actually do lower increases for the higher insurance, like where they're
There are
split.
different plans offered. and
No,
some
it's not even just different plans, so like, they'll do like an 80-20 split for a certain level plan, but if you do a different level plan, they do a 70-30. Or we, a certain plan across the board, and that's never been changed even during union negotiations.
Extra, not the split, I'm trying to remember like the plan, the choices that I saw. But like if you select a higher premium, you think there's like, you get like $1,000 towards your like, the savings.
Yeah, so I've seen that, I've seen where towns are offering money for people to leave their health insurance. I'm just, like, it's bad, but I'm just curious, because I know health insurance is a major.
But I don't think there's a split.
What is our split right now for our employees?
70-30?
It's some sort
Yeah,
of.
it's 70-30.
70-30.
I think the town's like 75, I didn't write the first or 75-25.
Do understand it's different across the 4 towns, so that was an interesting, depending on where you're now.
Well, yeah, that's why I was asking, because every town is
Yeah.
different, and even within Provincetown, we have 2 different splits depending on when you were hired.
Yeah. The, so the health insurance is one component, clearly. The new building has been a source of a lot of focus, the new high school building. And I think there's some good news here, although there is a increase anticipated for insurance costs of approximately 90,000. But the good news, if you wish to call it that, is that the operations, and Chris and Tom certainly know more about this, but the overall operations, utilities and such has been largely funded to a higher portion by the contractor during the construction renovation. Originally, when we started building the budget, there was thought that we might have to significantly increase, say, the utility costs to make up for that difference. But what Bob has told me as he's looked carefully into it is it looks like last year during this budget, there was sufficient funding put into it such that there's sufficient, shall we say, excess, or there's enough there to cover anticipated increases going forward. So the only thing for next year, so the only thing right now that we're increasing is there's some contracted services lines, you'll see more detail, and then this insurance and that. At first, we thought it was gonna be a lot higher to bring on board that new building entirely under our operation, but it doesn't look like it will be that way, so that's good news. Special education tuition, is without a big driver right now. The current roll-up, when you take together the district tuition, a little bit over 1.2 million over where we stand. The region took on 2 residential placements that were not known at the time of budgeting last year. And in addition, one of those students has a full-time assistant. If you've ever seen some of these residential placement costs, they can range greatly, but they can be very, very significant. In this case, they haven't. All of this is governed by the IEP process under state law, but it's certainly a significant increase. The third bullet's important to note. So we are in this current budget plan, including not only those two new students, but also we currently have a placeholder of potentially 3 students.
On
Matt-
top of the 2?
Yes,
So
so
5 in total?
Matt has, our director of special education, Matt has indicated that there's, the anticipation of one more student that would be added. There's two other positions that, for one residential and 2 day school placements. So they're, just to clarify, there's one student who is high level, belief that, will be become part of our responsibility. There's a couple of other placements that are built in as placeholders. But I want to point that out, and that's a discussion that we can certainly should have as we move forward with the budget process. I will admit that in some districts where there's a comfort to hold, hold spots, so to speak, for the potential of new students. In other districts, there's a desire not to do that, and if there is, then we will follow the circuit breaker funding to help offset those costs. But
So just so I understand correctly, we're talking about 5 potential students.
no.
Okay, so that's fine, no, but I'm saying 5 in total,
Two for sure with a high level of confidence that there'll be a third additional.
so just 3.
Yeah,
We're only talking about 3, not 5.
that's right. Yes.
Because I'm reading that as 5.
Yeah, and the overall, we'll have this breakdown for you too, but the overall number of out of district placements right now is still around 30 for the entire 7 schools in our school system. 24 or 25 is in the middle school and high school, with the other 4 or 5 if they get any schools. So, good question.
Okay.
The next few slides we go through quickly. Enrollment trends. This is a slide that has been part of the slide deck in the past. This shows you sort of where we have been tracking again as of October 1st, and this provides you a little bit more of a landscape view of students across Truro, P-Town, school choice in, Lighthouse Charter, Sturgis Charter, school choice out, and one of the things that grabbed my attention was the number of students at Lighthouse Charter that went down this year. So the number of students who, as a percentage of those who were matriculated in 6th grade was a fair.
Construction. Early construction, where we were. Lighthouse Charter.
Yeah.
Pretty sure they are.
I think it has to do with administrative changes. There's been a lot of families that have changed.
Next slide. So the next two just provide you with, and you've seen these numbers of course before, but just a breakdown of the middle school by town. As well as the Northern choice. So 442 is the total number of students again as of October 1st. That may change a little bit. And then Nauset Regional High School, the next slide. Again, break down by town across the grade levels. Postgraduate, that far right column, as I'm sure most are aware, our responsibility to provide programming for students beyond graduation or beyond 12th grade rather. And that's those numbers there. So 729 total in the high school right now, with choice being 125. So last slide, just a reminder of where we're heading in terms of this budget presentation, and of course to move into January with a far tighter budget picture. The kind of backup that you have used to see before, the line items breaking apart all of this data will be part of the budget package in January for you. We are on course to discuss this again on January 22nd. So not very far away, but a lot of work to do between now and then. As a reminder, and for those in the community that might be watching, Thursday, January 29th is the date that we've scheduled for the FY27 budget workshop, the second annual budget workshop. But that's planned for the 29th of January. Then we make our way into March with the final presentation and public hearing that we have to schedule, and we'll do so. So that's a lot of information. I know we've got some things to clean up, and I'll follow back up with you on those, but I'm happy to take further questions if any we have tonight on all of this.
Any questions, comments?
Do we have a digital copy of this document? So we can get the links and stuff?
Yeah.
I'm sure.
It's,
Those
I
links,
don't know the links
we're
work.
not always active, those links, we gotta figure out a way to make that happen.
When it comes with the agenda and the packet, they're not always active, so if you look for a file where the links are active. And make sure that everybody gets it, that would be great.
Quick question, we
Yeah.
see this next, we'll see the whole rollout
Yes.
budget, okay.
Yes.
The budget.
Very interesting. Oh, no, very nice presentation. I mean, it's a lot of information there. But it's good stuff, and it's ordered, and it's good. It's different from what we've got in the past, so it's a little different, like you. But it's a question, but it's good. I mean, it's good stuff. Once we use it, it would be very helpful.
So yes, I just would remind everybody, this is certainly more than we've ever gotten in the past at this period of time. Gives us more of an overall picture of where we're going. And to say, this is the budget without any cuts. So this is what's been requested, this is, without any refinements. And so I think it's pretty safe to say it can only go down.
Right.
Unless, I don't know.
That's a big, and health insurance is
Unless health insurance hits 20%, yes. But it would be the things outside of our control, so, yes, I think this is great. Okay, anything else? Okay, perfect, thank you very much. Okay, we just have one more thing to do, hopefully this is short and sweet. Last year, and I didn't get it in the packet, because they put it in at the last minute. But last year, we all had a copy of the MOA that we had with the Cape Cod Collaborative on running our buses. We have option years, it's a 5-year MOA. For some reason, it was 2 years, and then we have to exercise an option year annually. This is supposed to be done by January 1st. I thought it was the 31st. Last year we did it in May. So
it was a great,
nobody remembered, they were glad that it didn't. So, what I would like to be able to, exercise this option year. This is basically asking them to continue servicing our buses, running our transportation, same terms. As always, just for another year, beginning, July 1st, 2026. These years are getting hard to say, 2026 to June 30th, 2027. So I would like a motion that we would authorize the superintendent to sign the MOU and exercise the second option year.
So moved.
Second. Any questions? Catherine, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Katie?
Yes.
Rick?
Yeah.
Judy's yes. Maura? Tom? Elizabeth? Yes. Sarah? Okay, this passed. Okay, one more thing. We're not reporting out unless somebody has something really urgent.
I do. It's
Who's always
30 seconds.
always one in every crowd.
30 seconds.
And Tom.
I just used it all up. We're canceling the Budget and Finance Subcommittee meeting for Monday, January 5th. And we're going to double up on the meeting the 12th and do the middle school, the high school. And then the week after, we'll do regional only and the shared budget. It gives Glenn more time to prepare, and we moved our,
We just
Our
saw
full
these
committee.
things when I discovered that our meeting was on the 8th and people weren't coming back to school until the 5th. When we saw that at the beginning of the year, it looked fine. But when it came to the date, it was like,
Just on that note though, is Wednesday or it's Thursday?
it's Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Thursday's already another meeting then, so we had to move it to Wednesday.
So it is definitely moved to that day.
Yes. Okay, so anything else, Tom? Okay, then there's one last item. Number 9. We have a motion.
Remember now.
I'm looking at the calendar here, and I don't want to confuse it, but I'm looking at our calendar on January 26th. It's showing the meeting on the 8th, the 15th is actually a Thursday, the 14th is a Wednesday.
Yes, it's a meeting, it's the 14th
Wednesday. The
And-
8th is your support.
and the 22nd.
I thought it came in,
Pardon?
I thought it was broadcasted September 50th. So, I'm sorry, I was confusion, no problem, I was confused, I'm not.
I'm not confused.
Don't say you, I don't know the rest of us.
My calendar for me, I just text her.
We actually did it.
I hear confusion.
We have like 5 minutes.
I'll just text more and find out what you think.
All right, did I have a?
I would move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. All right. Good night, all. Don't forget the candy before